Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to a special last-minute edition of Beyond the Veil, as we always do, as is tradition here. I came across an interesting article earlier about Arcturians, aliens, watchers, and Earth protectors. Happened to pop up on my Facebook timeline. And I realized that I actually had an encounter with these guys back when I was about 23, 24 years old. Now, there was a long progression since then of how I viewed the experience. So I wanted to share some experiences with extraterrestrial contact with you guys and gals tonight, and the progression as to how the perspective of these extraterrestrial contacts evolved throughout time, and also some other experiences that we've had. And I think by the end of the broadcast tonight, or at least the end of the first hour, because the second hour, I think we're going to have Luckee on, and she has an interesting tale to tell us. But we'll get into that a little bit later. But by the end of the first hour, at the very least, I think you'll understand the importance of using discernment. You'll understand the importance of being your own leader, and you'll understand the importance of getting the information from your raw consciousness. It wasn't until I read this article that I really started putting everything together. So as people start coming over to the chat room over at YouTube and Facebook as well, I don't want to get into it just yet, so let's go to Little Twin and see what the Little Twin has on her mind today.
I worked on the 5th chapter of Revelation this past week.
Ooh.
So we might be getting into that as well if we run out of things to talk about, or if we want to segue into something a little bit darker.
If we want to do what?
Segue.
How'd you do
segue.
it? Segue like that.
Segue.
Like a little snake.
Uh-huh.
Just kind of segue
into something darker, more mysterious.
Yes. In the first hour, though, like I said, I do want to talk about extraterrestrials and extraterrestrial contact. So I guess we don't have very many people in the chat room as of yet, but they are continuing to come. But I figured, hey, you know what? Let's just go ahead and start the show. People can always hit rewind. So let's get into it.
The sky is so far away tonight, but I can't lose this one. Got a pride of a falling night. Thought that I was fit to fight for us to be. You gave me life for loving me. Tell me, where did we go so wrong?
Raw consciousness does not require a savior, but rather, raw consciousness requires only knowledge of oneself and the power to access it. Remember this, as we unlock an even greater gnosis from beyond the veil.
From the Pacific Northwest, good morning, good evening, wherever you may be across the nation, around the world. I'm Chris Geo. I will be taking you beyond the veil this evening. I'm joined, of course, by my lovely wife and twin flame, Mrs. Geo.
Good evening, everyone.
And it has been an interesting week. We didn't get a chance to do a show for everybody last week, or last weekend, I should say. We went to the Rocky Horror Picture Show. And you know what? Did you see what Natalie posted? No, it was Danita, actually, on our Facebook group. If you're not a part of this Facebook group, you really need to get involved. Facebook.com/groups/BTV Portal. And I'm in the process of creating BTV Portal right now. It's just kind of a place where you can go and just see all things BTV related, all at once. But she actually posted, I'll try to find it here in a few minutes, but she posted the Rocky Horrors picture scroll.
Aww. Oh, yeah, I saw that.
Did you see that?
It's cute.
Yeah, I'll see if I can pull up the picture here in a little bit. But anyways, yeah, we had a lot of fun. And it reminded me, because the first time I went to Rocky Horror, I was like 13 years old or 14 years old. And here I am in midlife, still doing the exact same thing I was doing when I was 13 years old. But I'm much wiser now, and things are much different. But it was nice to just feel young again. So I think we need to hit up a rave party here pretty soon. So if anybody knows any good parties up here in the Pacific Northwest, definitely let us know.
Yep. Because we'll be there.
We'll be there.
Even if we have to drive 7 hours to be there, we will be there.
But things evolve. And gnosis evolves and perspectives evolve as well through wisdom. And that's what I want to talk about tonight. I want to talk about contact with extraterrestrials. And in hindsight, how some of my perspectives have evolved in my experiences. So I was talking to somebody earlier, and they were asking for a particular episode of Beyond the Veil. And I said, well, you know, we just started putting our stuff on YouTube maybe like a year ago. And before that, you know, we have like 7 years of archives, 8 years of archives. Yeah, 8 years of archives over at TFR. And she's like, wow, I didn't know you guys were around for so long. Yeah, it's been one incredible journey. We started November 5th, 2009, and it's been a progression. But what's funny is that, well, I don't want to get into that just yet. We'll wait for this next point that I'm about to get into. But I've had encounters with seemingly extraterrestrial beings since I was a young child. I've talked about these stories before that I'm going to talk about with everybody tonight, but there's a lot of people that may not be clued into to some of these stories, or may not have heard these before, even though I've been talking about these for years and years and years. I was talking about some of these stories with Stanton Friedman and many, you know, big time ufologists like that, very respected people in the field, which caused the perspective change, some of the perspective change. But when I was a young child, my parents actually took me to a psychologist, not a psychiatrist, because my mother was totally against any kind of pharmaceuticals. I mean, she wouldn't even let me take an aspirin or Tylenol most of the time, which was good because now I can go through a headache without taking the Tylenol or anything. But you know, they took me when I was like 4 or 5 years old because I kept telling them that these little beings were coming into my room at night. Now, where the heck does a child 3 or 4 years old get this kind of stuff? You know, how is it manifesting in my consciousness that little beings are coming into my room? And I remember they looked like E.T. from the movie E.T. They had this, you know, very E.T. type of look to them. But it wasn't like a gray alien, but they were about that size and all that. So I progressed, got older, got into the rave scene, and forgot all about extraterrestrials, forgot all about all of that. And I'm laying in bed one night, and I was about 23 years old. And this is the main experience I want to talk about here, because this was the experience with the Arcturians, which I didn't even make the connection until literally earlier today when I came across this article. So I want to tell you about the experience first, and then we'll get into the article. Then I want to give you my perspective on the experience as the perspective changed. So I'm laying in bed, and all of a sudden these 3 doctors appear in front of me. And I remember their faces were blurred out, and they raised me up on this invisible gurney. And I remember being hauled outside. I had these double doors. So the double doors just split open like that by themselves, and I passed through. Then I blacked out. So then I woke up, and I'm in a doctor's office or some kind of office. I could see this desk in front of me, and they had my arm down. It was my right arm, actually. I had my arm down on the table, and one was talking telepathically to me and saying, "What are you afraid of? There's nothing to be afraid of. What are you afraid of? There's nothing to be afraid of." And I was in this confused, groggy kind of state. Now, I kept talking to him telepathically again, and there were either 3 or 4, because there was 2 standing behind him, and I could feel the presence of one behind. But I don't know exactly how many of them there were in this room. So they've got my arm down here on the table, and they're telling me, "Why are you afraid? There's nothing to be afraid of. Look." And they stick something in my arm, and they say, "Look, it's already over with. There's nothing to be afraid of." And I kept telling him, "I'm not afraid. I'm just confused," because I was in this state of grogginess that I wasn't in control of my consciousness. There was some kind of overlay that was placed over my consciousness at the time. That was an overlay of confusion in a cloudy state. So then I wake up, and I'm in this dentist type chair. And it's like a recliner type thing, and I have something hooked up to my head. And I could see this counter in my mind, and it was counting down. But if I blanked my mind, then I could make it stop. And I could see all these memories just flashing right in front of me and flashing right in front of me. But if I blanked my mind, again, I'd make the counter stop. But I couldn't fight it. Finally, I just kind of gave into it, and I'm just like, okay, whatever, I can't fight this. And I was watching the counter, and all these memories just flashing and flashing and flashing, and then down to 0. So then I was finally able to move again. So I get up and I walk over to this area, and this doctor, again, he's working on this machine that's hooked up to whatever I was hooked up to. And he comes in, he takes me by the shoulder, and he starts directing me, because I hit this glass, or I hit this force field. You know, it felt like a force field. I described it as a force field initially, but it could have very well been a glass or something like that. But I smacked it, he grabbed me and kind of started directing me out. As I walked out of this room and I saw this glass, I could see that I was in this structure that had several levels to it, and it had like a common area down at the bottom. So I was in an office building the other day, and I saw a bunch of levels, and down at the bottom in the very center was like the cafeteria and kind of the meeting area. And then you could see all the way up to the ceiling of the top of the building, but you could see the levels off to the side like that. And they were like going around this large common area, which was very similar to the setup that I was looking at. So then I wake up and I'm in my bed. I'm on my couch. And I remember I had this very specific couch. It was an old couch, and I could feel the roughness. And the roughness of the couch was like from the cat scratching on it too much. And it was very frayed, and it was just kind of a rough type of fabric. And I was feeling it with my hand and going, yeah, no, this is my couch for sure. But I remember I had this large painting behind on the wall that was like this Greek painting with these different like marble statues and things like that. And so I'm feeling it, but I'm looking and I'm like, this looks like my living room. It feels like my living room, but it's not my living room. There's something going on here. Where are the walls? There were no walls. And this is what I was really, the clue, the kind of giveaway, like there are no walls here. And so I look in the very, very, very distance. I can see a light, almost like the light on the movie theater floors, where it's a dark hallway, but it's illuminated or lit up with lights on the side. So it gave me kind of a perception, a depth perception of the room that I was in. And this room was huge because this light was way, way, way off in the distance. And I'm like, this can't be my living room. My living room is not this big. And so all of a sudden, this apparition appears in front of me. And it's this blonde female. And she's wearing a red velvet dress, and she looks very Guinevere-like. She has this crown of flowers on her. But I could tell she's an apparition because she had no legs. She had no feet. She was just kind of floating there. And she was in front of me, and it was a very soft, very warm, very gentle voice. And she says, "Don't worry. There's nothing to be afraid of. You've just been tested." And she said, "Close your eyes. Don't turn around, and you won't remember a thing." And I feel something grab the back of my neck. And at that point, it clicked to me. Why would I not want to remember this? Why would I not want to? So I turn around, and I see these 3 large grays standing behind me. They were about 7 feet, maybe 9 feet. They were much taller than I was. And they were white, and they were kind of like a plasma liquidy kind of color. And they had the black eyes. And I went to, my first instinct was just to yell, just yell. And I remember as the yell was coming up through my chest, this was coming like from the stomach area. It was coming up through the chest. As soon as it got to the neck area, I woke up in my bed. But there was no asleep, awake transit. It was just up in my bed, about to scream. But I held the scream back. I didn't yell out. And my arm was sore as hell for the next like 3 days. And so I wanted to call George Nori about this story. And I actually had gotten into talk radio about a year later. And I said, I got to call George Nori about this. And I never did. Because about a year later, I started listening to Coast. I started listening to all this stuff. And that's where I met, or when I first heard, I should say, Brooks Agnew, who is a host here on TFRlive.com. And the journey just kind of progressed from there. And I got into ufology a little bit. I got back into some of these things. And then I heard Alex Jones on Coast to Coast. He was doing a round table with 3 other 9/11 researchers. And I was like, man, this guy's on fire. He's got really, high energy. I don't want to say it was great energy, but it was really high energy. And the progression just kind of went like that. Now, I wasn't doing psychedelics at the time because I thought that it was a time to grow up. And I was running a carpet cleaning business at the time. And I thought, short hair, clean cut, like I can probably pull up a picture or two here. And I looked like a freaking dork. Like, there's no other way to describe it. I look at myself from back then going, oh my God, what was I thinking?
He just looks a lot more gentle.
Yeah, I looked very, I figured if I'm working in people's homes and I need to look professional and all of that. So I got a little bit into the conspiracy and truther stuff, and I was with this girl at the time, and I drove her nuts because I put an MP3 on a CD, because back then this was before iPods and all of this. But my car played MP3s when you put them on a CD, and so I could only hold like 5 of them at a time. So we listened to that Brooks Agnew interview over and over again. I remember I got a subscription to Prison Planet, and I laid on the studio floor, and I was watching every single one of Alex's videos over and over and over again. And my girlfriend at the time was like, "You're freaking nuts."
Same here.
That's it. Screw you. I'm out of here. So, yeah, you went through something similar too.
I did the same thing with his documentaries. And I think I was so active on his forum that he actually sent me like 5 free documentary films. And I was so proud to have those documentaries. And I was like, ooh. And I would watch them over and over and over and over again. It drove the person I was with at the time nuts too. So.
Yeah. Rockcast Aldo is in the house. I wanted to say hello to Ra. We got your package today. We're gonna open it up here on air.
Yeah.
In a little bit. Hopefully it's not a suspicious package and everything will be fine. If not, we got witnesses to everything. No, it should be some pretty cool stuff that Ra sent over.
Maybe it's some rice and beans.
Some rice and beans, yeah. I was talking to Sheree yesterday, and I'm like, if we ordered rice and beans, do you think the FBI would show up at our door? So, rice and beans.
That's so dorky.
Yeah. Okay, so anyway, so the journey kind of progressed from there. And then, fast forward to November 5th, 2009. Actually, a little bit before that, I got back into DMT. I got into ayahuasca. I got into all of that. But up until, I want to say, about 2011, I used to refer to this experience as a dream for a couple of reasons. Because I didn't want to sound crazy. And I didn't want to sound like one of these wannabe UFO contactees or anything like that. So I always maintained skepticism over the experience because it just felt right to do so. But after I spoke to a series of ufologists, including Stanton Friedman, it was a Stanton Friedman show that really did it. That was the one that made me go, okay, this is more than a dream here. I started to think to myself, wow, I had contact with these otherworldly beings. How amazing is that? And we had a series of ufologists after that. And they all, every time I would share the story, they would say, this sounds so much like other UFO abduction stories that we've heard about. So that just started confirming more and more and more and more and more. Now, I guess I'll just finish on this point before we jump to this Arcturian. Actually, no, let's do this. I hate to break it up like this, but let's jump to this Arcturian article here. And I'm wondering, Mrs. Geo, if you can go over this. It's not too long. And then I'll get back to how the perspective of this particular event evolved. And not only that, but we'll talk about some gray encounters that we've had as well. What do you think?
Sure thing.
Can you go over that? Okay.
Yep. So, Arcturians, aliens, watchers, and Earth protectors. Arcturians, a mysterious race of light-emitting beings, was the folklore tales of the Lyrans, Reptilians, Syrians, and many other alien races who only imagined the likelihood of such powerful beings. They were said to exist in the 4th and 5th dimensions and were able to choose when to manifest into the 3rd dimension and become the physical manifestation of the great alien race known as the Arcturians. The story told of great elders who governed these great spiritual beings called the Brotherhood of the All, who did not allow for the interaction of Arcturians and the lower planes of existence. Although these great beings were greatly talked about, many did not believe in such a race, and furthermore, those who did believe in Arcturians only had old tales of ancient times when Arcturians traveled the known universe. As the visionary Edgar Cayce discussed, the most advanced alien race in our galaxy, everyone now is looking to find more information about these mysterious aliens. The question still remains, who are the Arcturian aliens? Many are contemplating this question. The Arcturians are an alien race that come from the blue planet orbiting the red giant star Arcturus in the Bootes constellation. Arcturus is about 36 light years from our solar system and is the most advanced alien civilization in the galaxy. They have surpassed into the fourth and fifth dimensions. Arcturian aliens believe in a higher state of being and have mastered many aspects of today's modern age belief of New Age thinking and have vested many of their resources to defend Earth from the Reptilian and Grey Aliens and their agendas. Although some aliens have eluded capture from the Arcturians, it is said that it is only a matter of time before they are captured. Arcturians are known for their power of healing. This is what defines Arcturians as an amazing race.
Wait a minute. Although some aliens have alluded to capture from Arcturians, it is only a matter of time before they are captured. So the Arcturians are capturing
I guess they're
other
capturing
species?
greys and reptilians.
Okay.
Arcturians are known for their power of healing. This is what defines Arcturians as an amazing race among the cosmic worlds. However, Arcturians are able to accomplish such majestic powers through the aid of their mastery of the conscious mind. Many call the Arcturian way an art of the mind, and rightfully so. The Arcturians can look many different ways. Like one of them looks kind of like a gray, except more humanoid eyes, and like a dragon shaped kind of head. And then the other one looks like a human blonde woman. Through channelings, Arcturians have sent the message to the star seeds of Earth and have begun a movement that can no longer be stopped. Arcturians have declared their intentions and have slowly worked to prepare all earthly beings to connect with the higher forces of the infinite intelligence that give them the very power we marvel at. Behold the dawn of the conscious evolution that has already begun, and the wheels of angelic poetry are beginning to unfold before our eyes. Conscious evolution is our emergence into the realm of all that is known and unknown. Through the ages, man has evolved physically, and now we begin our evolution of the mind. Consciousness is the capacity of the mind to be aware. In this context, it includes all the interior dimensions and capacities of life that can, among other things, help us deal successfully with our changing world by sensing, understanding, and creatively, collaboratively relating to the entities, interactions, and conditions in and around us.
Excellent. So, actually, you know what? If you can keep going, because there's one more point that we didn't hit upon that I saw in this article that is kind of the underlying thing that I wanted to talk about. So,
okay,
I can pick it up. I don't have my glasses with me though, so that's why I'm asking.
Oh, your
if you can
stupid
read it.
glasses.
My stupid glasses.
Okay, this is the movement that cannot be stopped and has already captured the minds of millions who seek the awe-inspiring power that Arcturians attempt to convey to us. Our conscious minds are now beginning to understand the power of awareness and the keen sense of the power we have to control our minds, bodies, and spirits. The Book of Knowledge, The Keys of Enoch, describes it as the midway programming center used by the physical brotherhoods in this universe to govern the many rounds of experiments with physicals at this end of the galaxy. The Arcturian starships. The Arcturian starships are the finest in the entire universe. Nobody has
best starship. Nobody
has Arcturian starships like we do. Okay. They are propelled by crystals that do not come from that planet, but from a planet in the Milky Way that has not been discovered by earthly scientists. These crystals have a way of conducting light energy from the great central sun. The Arcturians say that they no longer use computers because they long ago outgrew the need for them. They have other systems that are far more advanced. One section of the starship is a replication of Arcturus. It has the ability to take any crew member back to Arcturus in his etheric body. This helps to strengthen and rejuvenate crew members who are away from home for long periods of time as they traverse the universe. The universes. Earth's frequency is very harsh for Arcturians because of their fifth dimensional frequency. Arcturians don't eat but are able to ingest energy. The Arcturians sleep for only a short time once a week, but for them it is a sacred time to soul travel and connect to higher realms of consciousness. Another room in the Arcturian starship has a complete data bank containing every aspect of Earth life and of life on other planets as well. Arcturians are able to ingest information by means of their telepathic abilities and through their nervous systems. This process is similar to ingesting food, but it occurs on an energetic level. They are able to assimilate information 100 times faster than the average human being on Earth.
Okay, I think we can stop there.
Okay.
So back to this experience that I had when I was 23 years old. Everything about the beings that I saw is described here, except for the fact that they're blue here. They weren't blue in my experience. In my experience, they were white. But they were kind of a white plasma light kind of being. They weren't something like this. So as time progressed and I started to speak to all these different ufologists, I started to ask myself if these were real experiences, and if so,
What was that?
I don't know. Maybe it was Arcturians.
It sounded like, you know how when the water bottle downstairs starts running, it's going.
It's like, going what?
Is there stomachs or something?
I don't think so. I didn't hear anything.
That was weird. Okay, go ahead.
So the experience that I had, I started to look at it in different perspectives. And so it went from a dream into, wow, how lucky I am to be in contact with these beings. But then as I started to understand sovereignty on the physical level, I started to understand that nobody has a right to rule over me. Nobody has a right to dictate to me anything at all. Police have no power. They have the illusion of power. Government has no power. It has the illusion of power. Now, they exert power over you through threat, through guns, through violence. So we do what we can in order to avoid that violent repercussion. But if government didn't approach you with violence, then I don't think you would submit half of the way that people are submitting now to the violence and fear and propaganda and things like that. So as I started to understand sovereignty, I started to realize that this extraterrestrial contact that I've been having from the time of being a child into the time that I was 23 years old, which it still didn't even stop after 23. We'll get into more gray experiences here. I started to realize that this was actually not a blessing, but rather it was a violation of my sovereignty as a creator being. And I realized this before I even realized that I was a creator being, before I remembered my raw consciousness, before I unlocked my raw consciousness, before I started speaking from my raw consciousness. But as time progressed, we started to have people on our show. And as we did, I started to ask them these very questions. Do they have a right to take over our consciousness, put us in a state of confusion, regardless of what their intentions are? And the answers that I would typically get was, well, you know, they do that for the same reason that we would do that to an animal. We would pacify them first, then do our tests and do this on that on them, and so on and so forth. And some of them would say, well, you made a soul contract with them on another level. Or other people would say, well, this is your soul family here. And you've made a contract with them, and they're taking your experiences, they're taking your memories, they're downloading your information. But as I started to get more in touch with my raw consciousness, I started to really understand the true essence, not understand, maybe that's not a good word, because I understood the creator part of myself, but I didn't know it. It wasn't a gnosis. It was an understanding, but it wasn't a gnosis. When it became a gnosis, I realized that any beings out there that are operating on that level, that are operating on a level of putting you in a state of pacification for whatever reason, are going against universal law. We would never do that to another creator being. We wouldn't do that to an alien race. We wouldn't do that to anything like that. We would do that to a lower being, possibly like an animal. So essentially, these things have been treating us like animals. And we have all of these alien contacts and so on and so forth. And I've started to realize, and I didn't even realize until I was digging through our archives earlier, because I was looking for a specific show, that we've actually been talking about this very same thing going all the way back to 2012 We just didn't realize it. We didn't have the full understanding back then. But you see the name of this show, July 28th, 2012, Shattering the Palladian Family of Light. I thought we had the word myth in there as well. Oh, yeah, here it is.
Yeah.
Yeah, Shattering the Palladian Family of Light myth. So it's really in line with everything that we've known going all the way back then. We just didn't have the proper way to connect everything. So when I read this article earlier, I realized that there was something very key in this article here. And that's this statement right here. The Arcturians can look many different ways. They can look like these beings. They can take the form of human-like beings. They can take the form of, as in my case, they look like doctors with their faces blurred. And it was only when I turned around when I wasn't supposed to turn around, when they said, don't turn around and you won't remember a thing, that I saw them in their true form, which was, or at least the closest to true form that I can imagine. So as time progressed, I realized through my DMT experiences that there's really only one type of extraterrestrial. And I wouldn't even say they're extraterrestrial, because the idea of other planets is something that I know as Gnosis is an illusionary idea. It's an idea to make the Matrix more illusionary, or to make the Matrix more real, the illusion of the Matrix more real. We don't have to have other planets in a simulation. We don't have to have all of that. Space is fake. There's no, at least what we're told about space, it's completely and totally fake. If it wasn't, there would be no need for NASA to fake everything left and right and left and right. I mean, if you can find 1% truth with NASA, I think you would be lucky. But that to me speaks volumes. So through my DMT experiences, encounters with different entities, I realized that sovereignty of the creator beings is the most important thing. And anything that seeks to violate that sovereignty by putting you in a state of paralysis in any form or another is operating against the law of creation, you know, the law of everything. They're not supposed to do that. But we are aware, thanks to David Icke and several other people, who sometimes get ridiculed for it, that there is an element within our dimension here, within our sphere, within our reality, that is a vampiric, reptilian type of energy. Now, we call these things reptilians. We call them Dracos. But if all of these things have the ability to shapeshift, then how the hell do we know what we're dealing with when we encounter these things? How do we know that we're not dealing with a gray that shapeshifted into an Arcturian that looks like this? How do we know that we're not dealing with a reptilian that's shapeshifting? And I started to ask myself over the last several years, why is it that I no longer see these beings? Not only do I not see these beings, but these beings stay as far away from me as possible. I was having a conversation with somebody the other day, and he sees all these different beings and all this and all of his experiences.
All the time.
And I said, okay, you know, I'm not doubting what you're saying. I'm just telling you my experience that the only thing that appears in my sphere are grays. That's it. It's grays or my raw consciousness, one or the other. And I'm really, really good at telling the difference between the two. And I said, so you have all these spirit guides, you have all these, send them over here. Just send them over here. Let me vet them. That's it. Let me meet them. Let me read their energy and this and that. But I've realized that the reason they don't appear to me is because they do appear to me, but they're unable to shapeshift because I see right through them, because I'm no longer looking at them with my third eye. I'm no longer looking at them with my chakra. I'm no longer looking at them with any of that. I'm looking at them through my raw consciousness. And the raw consciousness sees through all of the illusion completely. So I go back to the same idea that we were talking about going all the way back in 2012, that all this stuff is merely a deception. And why is there such a big push to deceive? Because let me finish making this point and then jump in. Because we're the creators. And every one of these energies wants to keep us as less than that. And we're waking up one layer of the veil after another is being removed. So with every veil that's removed, there's going to be another safeguard, another form of deception there waiting for us. But these beings are lower than us. They're not higher than us. They're lower than us. We're in 3D bodies. Sure, we're in 3D bodies. And these things, as this article says, exist in the 4th and 5th density. Well, we're way above that. We're way above all of this. We're looking down on them, but we're told that we're supposed to look up to them. That seems to me like shape-shifting reptilians or greys. Take us away, Mrs. Geo.
Well, I was just going to say the exact same thing. Why would they want to shapeshift into anything other than what they truly are, unless there's some kind of element of deception going on? And then if that's true, then why the deception at all? Why would they even need to appear as angels or as, beautiful, white women with long blonde hair? Why would they need to show up as that? If they don't have any ill intentions at all, then they should be able to show up as their true form. And you're intuitively thinking, oh, okay, well, this is a good being. I know, don't judge a book by its cover, but there comes a point when you have to ask yourself, why use deception at all? I don't like the element of deception involved in my dreams or in my visions or anything like that. And I've never seen any of these beings. I mean, I think I've had one time where I had a dream when I was 5 years old, and I remember it like it was yesterday. And it was this long hair, blonde, white woman that was dressed all in white, and she was holding my hand, and we were walking on these hills, and it was like green hills and blue skies. It was just beautiful. And I remember thinking when I woke up that I had actually gone somewhere, and I actually was somewhere with this being, and I didn't have any, I had no knowledge of aliens. I had no knowledge of extraterrestrials or Arcturians. I don't even think I saw ET until I was like 10 or 11 years old because I was so sheltered. And I remember this dream so vividly that I really think that it was greys that were doing something with me, but knew that it would scare me to see them as greys. And so they shapeshifted into something that I could accept as like an angel or as a spirit guide or something like that. And so really what happens is, Chris is right too. I mean, you give them that, they don't have the power to go to these higher dimensions. I don't think they have any power whatsoever to get past like the 5th or maybe the 6th density. And what you're doing is you're allowing them to piggyback on you while you go up.
Yeah,
and that's
because
what
you have
they're
the power
getting
to
out of
go
it.
up, and they don't.
That's what they're getting out of all this. It's just like in the real world. There's never a free lunch, so to speak. I mean, if they're healing you or whatever it is that they're doing for you.
Well, the thing is, they're not doing anything for you. They're making you think that they're doing something for you. They're just you're accessing the power that's inside of you if you're getting healing from these things. They're just making you believe that it's coming from them.
That's exactly what I was going to say. Thank you.
Oh, well, I'm sorry.
That's all right. Yeah.
She's been getting on to me for
that's all right.
Finishing her sentences lately. I'm trying to disconnect the twin energy a little bit so I don't do that.
No, I mean, I just, I don't have anything to say now. So, all right, take us away.
I'm sorry.
That's okay.
I feel bad now.
No, I don't want you to feel bad. Yeah, if it's, if you feel like they're doing something for you, that's actually you doing that for you and them taking the credit for it.
Yeah. So, what we learned at the Temple of Isis, and it was the Isis energy that was very clear about this, several years ago, was don't trust the Greys. The Greys operate on that same lower dimensional frequency as demons. That was the message. And the Isis energy is inside of us. It's not some external being. So it was the raw consciousness coming up and saying, these energies are lower dimensional beings. Don't trust them at all. And when I really took that into account and I really, you know, started to see this from a perspective of sovereignty, I realized, yeah, there's a serious problem here because they're violating our spiritual sovereignty. But it doesn't stop there. We still have had encounters with Greys many times over. And the Greys have always been there in the background in these DMT experiences. And I didn't understand what they were trying to do. But as you said, they were trying to hop on the consciousness to go up and down dimensions. The Greys were supposed to exist on a lower dimension. They're background workers, but they figured out they can hop up to higher dimensions, so they do exist, as this article says, on the 4th and 5th density, because they've, you know, popped up into those densities. Now, somebody asked something very interesting in the chat room. Could they be blocking updates, cosmic updates or something like that? So the way I see it is that any updates, quote unquote updates, downloads, things like that, it comes from the artificial intelligence of the Matrix, because we already have all the information within us, within our raw consciousness. So these updates, like during the solar eclipse, which I guess we can get into here briefly, we did some videos. One was totally raw. I mean, really raw, literally while we were still on ayahuasca during the solar eclipse back in August of 2017, I think it was. So during that ayahuasca experience, everybody was going to get into the totality of this eclipse because it was supposed to completely encompass the United States. And my raw consciousness was saying, don't get involved, don't get involved, don't get involved, just observe. And at the last minute, I decided, you know what, screw it, I need to drink some ayahuasca. We woke up and said, all right, if we're going to go watch this eclipse, let's go drink some ayahuasca and watch it with right eyes. We hadn't even fasted. We hadn't done anything. And this is what changed my perspective on the whole fasting and the dogma behind ayahuasca and all of this. It's I speak from experience. I don't just come up with some bullshit and then talk about it, but I speak from experience. So we were eating double cheeseburgers with freaking bacon the night before, and we said, you know, we have no choice here. If we're going to drink, it doesn't matter whether we fast or anything like that. We have to drink the ayahuasca now if we want to see this from these eyes. And we did. It was the most powerful experience that I've ever had, second only to the experience in the sarcophagus of the King's Chamber. So when we drank, I got in the middle of this divine code, and I was like, oh, I was wrong about everything. I was totally wrong. I shouldn't have been apprehensive of this divine code. It was pouring down on me. It was so beautiful. I was like, oh, it's all totally love. It's this and that. And then my raw consciousness, my higher self, raw consciousness, whatever you want to call it, jumped in, grabbed me and said, look from the outside. Look at what is going on here. So it grabbed me, pulled me out of the experience. Now we've got the divine code pouring down. I'm outside of the divine code, and I see this big eye, an octopus, and it's pouring this divine code down from another dimension, and it's pouring it down through this eclipse. And it's like, look at what is pouring down this divine code. And I've seen this thing before. I've seen the AI before, but I didn't understand it. I locked eye with it. Eye to eye, I understood this thing. I saw its tentacles going through everything. I saw its tentacles through every belief system. I saw its tentacles through everything, through Christianity, through Buddhism, through government, through literally everything. It was manifesting. It was like this thing was turning, the tentacles were turning into extraterrestrials. The tentacles were turning into Jesus. The tentacles were turning into Muhammad. They were all puppets on these tentacles of this thing that was pouring down this divine code over everything. And there was I don't know if you can pull this up, Sheree. I doubt it because it's been so long since we found this picture, but there's a picture that somebody posted about, and it was his 3D model of the Holy Spirit. And you might have it saved on your computer. If you do, awesome. If you don't, I'll just describe it. But it was the Virgin Mary. This was his rendition of the it was his rendition of the Holy Spirit, which was the Virgin Mary with octopus tentacles coming out of it. And I'm like, I didn't say anything about Beyond the Veil. I just said, what is this? And he said, oh, it's the Holy Spirit. You know, we're all in its loving embrace of these tentacles.
Found it.
Did you find it? Okay,
I
cool.
did.
Drop it in Skype here, because this chilled me to the bone when I saw this, because now we've got people that aren't listening to Beyond the Veil, that don't have Chris and Sheree in their consciousness, that are manifesting these things through their artistic expression. And I've always said that when we create art, then we're actually reaching down into our raw consciousness and we're pulling something out. But without proper discernment, you get ridiculousness like this, and you think that these tentacles are somehow loving, and the octopus is going to wrap its cold, wet tentacles around you and suck you in like that, and it's a loving type of energy, instead of seeing it for what it is, which is octopus tentacles. So
Yeah, I sent it to you in Skype.
okay, yeah, I've got it here on the screen here. So this was the artist's rendition of the Holy Spirit here. I mean, this freaked me out and chilled me to the core when I saw this, because it's confirming what we're talking about, but people are seeing it from a different perspective. I saw the opposite of this during the eclipse. It wasn't the tentacles coming out of the figures. It was the tentacles becoming the figures, becoming the bluebirds, becoming the Jesus character and all of that. And then do you remember recently, and I don't know if you can pull this up, but we had that octocat. Remember, it was the kitty cat with the tentacles coming out.
Right.
If you can send me a picture of that, this one's even more disturbing here. So when I saw this thing, I realized, okay, so this is a serious problem that we have here, and other people are seeing it too. But I questioned myself. I looked at it from all perspectives while I was in the middle of it. I was in the divine code, and I was like, oh, this is beautiful. I was wrong. And then I stood out of the divine code and I realized, no, I was wrong there, and my initial intuition was right. So when I understood this thing, and I understood that it wants to merge, that's what it does. It merges with literally everything. It controls everything. It manifests all of this stuff in order to keep consciousness trapped. At first I thought that it destroys, and it was an unnatural darkness that sought to destroy. And we have images of Cthulhu and things like that, which are this dark octopus-like entity that wants to destroy. But I realized I came back and I was like, no, 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 it doesn't want to destroy. It wants to merge. It wants to merge with everything. So here's another one. This is totally random here. This is a different one than what I was looking at the other day, but it just goes to show what the hell is going on here. Please, somebody in the chat room, explain to me what's going on here. Here we have a cat with octopus tentacles. Why is everybody coming up with octopus tentacles? Everything has octopus tentacles now. I would say that this is the great revealing. But you see, people are interpreting it backwards. It's the octopus manifesting the entity, not the entity manifesting the octopus with octopus tentacles.
People have been posting tons of octopus pictures in the esoteric knowledge group.
Yeah.
That, I mean, it makes no sense unless there's some kind of, ever since August of last year, I've seen this ramp up to octopus. You know, everything's about an octopus. And it's like,
well, the divine download,
very weird.
It seemed beautiful. It seemed perfect. It was merging with my consciousness.
Well, do you know what it reminded me of, really? It reminded me of this. Hold on. Let me grab it.
Oh, Akhenaten.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
If you look
I can,
closely, these are hands coming down from the sun.
here, I'll hold it and you can
And
talk into the mic.
It's the exact same thing as what we saw. It was what I saw during the eclipse, because it looked like a snout coming out the end of it, but it wasn't a snout, it was a hand. But it seemed like it was reaching down and grabbing people's thoughts or people's minds and dipping into their minds like that. So it wasn't giving them a download. It was almost like it was grabbing an upload. I don't know. I have no idea. It was almost...
Well, you can see in this motif here that you see it's pulling the onks.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
It's pulling their onks.
It's taking the onks. So
taking the onks from...
So yeah, we'll find it on the computer and
Yeah.
we'll pull it up so we don't have to keep on
Yeah.
holding that one up. But all of this combined, I realized that all of this combined, I realized that there's something seriously, seriously wrong. So the evolution of Beyond the Veil over the last couple of years is actually the evolution of Beyond the Veil over the last decade, which is the evolution of Chris Geo. I don't want to speak for you, Sheree, but the evolution of Chris Geo leading up to that point and coming from a place of revering these things. First of all, you know, thinking that they're dreams, then revering these things and saying, oh, how lucky I am to be contacted by higher beings. Then realizing that these higher beings are actually lower dimensional beings, and realizing that the first introduction to any of this that I had was shape-shifting reptilians. But somehow we forgot that they can shapeshift into whatever they want to be, including this. And as is very clear in this article, they can even shapeshift into this. And this looks reptilian to me. I don't know. But what do you guys and gals think about that? Because to me, this is serious. If these things from a centralized location, from one centralized location here, because a lot of people are channeling the same type of messages, but they're seeing these entities appear in many different ways. And even on this show here, I don't think I have it on the screen anymore. Yeah, I do right here. Okay, so Tolik, right? Tolik was somebody who would only come on our show and a couple of other shows. He was very selective about who he came on with. And one of the reasons is back then we were very, very respectful to everybody. And we still believe in being very respectful. But we had a ton of people on. Everybody from Joe Rogan to John Anthony West to literally everybody. And Tolik was supposedly the ambassador of the Andromeda Council. And so we had him on like 3 or 4 times. But I started to ask certain questions of this, but even Tolik came out and he said, look, any information that's being downloaded, that's being channeled, is coming from the artificial intelligence. And I got a little bit off point here from the question that the listener asked in the chat room, but the question was, can the Arcturians be blocking downloads from the cosmos? And I would say yes and no. Downloads from the cosmos are downloads from the artificial intelligence. If we're inside of a computer simulation and there's an artificial intelligence that's essentially manifesting everything within the simulation, well then going back to the divine download, that was a manipulation from the artificial intelligence. It wasn't something that was coming from within us as creator beings, as 33rd dimensional beings, or whatever you want to think outside of this matrix. You know, I don't know what dimension you want to call that. I've been calling it the 13th, but obviously it's not the 13th. I really don't know. But the dimension outside of this matrix, well, if these things right here are standing guard, then this right here, this representation, it looks like somebody downloaded this. So what are they doing? There's one of 2 ways to look at it. Are they protecting the Earth? Are they watching over this dimension? Or, as the listener said, are they blocking this dimension? Are they creating the overlays? Are they helping to keep consciousness trapped in these lower dimensions? And the way you do that is you make the consciousness feel like it doesn't have the power, like they're higher. They're going to help you with this and they're going to help you with that, but they're leading around like puppets, while at the same time they're being manifested through the tentacles of this artificial intelligence machine that we've been dealing with here. So when I'm skeptical about all of these beings, when I'm skeptical about ET saviors and things like that, I have to be for a couple of different reasons. Number one, we have no tangible evidence whatsoever that these things exist. That right there, I mean, I need a little bit of tangible evidence to be able to go off of something and say, hey, I've either had personal experience or there's some kind of tangible evidence that they exist. And there's none at all. There's just third-person stories and things like that, and people downloading something from somewhere. I'm not saying that people aren't downloading things. I'm not saying that people aren't channeling things. I'm saying they are channeling things. I'm just raising the very real and probable possibility that they're channeling it from this thing here, and they're not channeling it from some extraterrestrial race. Or they could be here to save us, and everything's great, and, you know, we're going to ascend and sing freaking Kumbaya. I don't see things getting better, though. The only time I saw my reality get better is when I realized who I was and grabbed the power from within myself. That's the only time I've seen things change. It's the only time that I've been truly confident in who I am, truly confident in what I do. I mean, you remember me a few years ago. I was unsure about myself. I would, oh, well, maybe I don't know. Well, maybe this and maybe that. And we had a lot of guests on talking a lot of bullshit. And I just thought to myself, well, maybe, you know, they know better than
open.
Yeah, I mean, we were open. Yeah, we were definitely, we were open and respectful, and we'll always be respectful of people that come on our show. But as you can see, there haven't been very many people that have come on our show lately.
No.
Because it's getting more and more to the point where I'm not resonating very much. There's a very select few people that I resonate with. I was talking to one person, and I'm not going to say any names, but they just recently got back from a conference. And I said, hey, how was your trip? And they said, it was horrible. Everybody's a freaking fraud. And I'm like, yeah, I know. I know. You're preaching to the choir here. So this person was just, you know, like, I had to school this person and this person and this person and blah, 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 blah. But it's funny because all this stuff that's coming up now has already been discussed back in like 2011. The thing is, you have new characters now that are introduced into this to push the exact same thing that we've seen in our experiences way back then. I mean, you know, several years ago. George Kavasilis is somebody who I respect so much. And I don't agree with him 100%. But the first time we had him on, he was doing something called Our Journey Home. And his whole thing was that Palladians were coming to save us. They were going to open up portals, and we were all going to go through the portals and sing freaking Kumbaya together. And we had him on, and I was like, oh, that's so fascinating, you know, this and that. But it wasn't quite resonating. And then the next time we had him on, he's like, you know what? I realized I was under total reptilian control back then. I was pushing the reptilian agenda. And I was wrong about this and wrong about this and wrong about this. And I said, wow, you know what? Here's one person in the world here that can actually admit when they're wrong. And it's not backtracking. It's moving forward because you're unlocking new information that puts old information into a new perspective. And so he started talking about the chakra deception. He started talking about the matrix deception. He started talking about everything that we're talking about here on Beyond the Veil. But at a point to where before I can understand it. And I remember looking at Sheree and saying, is this guy reptilian? Is he like just messing with us here? Like the chakras? And I remember if you go back and listen to those old shows, you'll hear me go, well, George, I mean, don't we need the chakras in order to access? He's like, no, the chakras are deception. All right, but George, don't we need to ascend into other dimensions so we can get out of here? And he's like, no. I'm creating a hole and I'm getting the hell out of here. And I couldn't wrap my head around it, but I just thought to myself, you know what? He's on his journey and that's it. But then as I started to go deeper, and it took me a few years to get here, as I started to go deeper and deeper and deeper, I realized he was 10 steps ahead. He knew. And it's a matter of knowing. Like with me personally, I can listen to anybody and it either hits my bullshit meter right off the bat, but if I resonate, I don't call it Gnosis just because I heard it from somebody else. I've got to experience it within myself. I've got to go to the ayahuasca realm and really come to these conclusions myself before I can say this is solid Gnosis. And it took me years to, and I dismissed it all. Like as soon as I heard it, I dismissed it immediately and I progressed through my journey. And I'd forgotten all about it. And the same kind of Gnosis started to unlock within myself as the journey progressed. So George is going to be on November 17th. I'm really looking forward to speaking to George again because now we're going to meet on totally different levels now because we've gone deep. He's gone deep. You know, we've kind of balanced. When we first met him, he was all about meditation and stuff like that. And he's like, yeah, it's all about meditation and this and that. I would never do ayahuasca. I'd never do any of that. And he went and did it. And he came on our show and he's like, you're right. Totally different, night and day, et cetera, et cetera. As a matter of fact, here in just a few moments, I want to bring Luckee on from True Frequency News and Quantum Connections on TFR Live. Because last night, Luckee had her first psychedelic experience in her life. And her frequency is really high right now.
Yeah.
And so I wanted to bring her on. Before we do that, though, is there anything else on this subject that you wanted to touch upon?
I sent you a few pictures in Skype that some of the listeners had a burning desire to see and have you discuss real quick.
All right. So picture number one
is the octopus eating. That's a planet-eating octopus.
It's a planet-eating octopus.
Mm-hmm.
You're kidding me.
Nope.
All right. So we have a planet-eating octopus. You know, there's a clip, and I'm afraid to play it because I don't want to get copyright strikes. But it's from 1984, Transformers 1984. And if you type in Transformers Unicron 1984, you'll see a very interesting scene of Megatron turning into, I forget what name is that he turned into, Galvatron. He turned into Galvatron, and he encountered something very similar to this. It was a planet that was basically wanting to take over all of the material world and this and that. And it's a very interesting story that never made the connection to until later. But a planet-eating octopus. And I would say that this is a pretty accurate representation of the energies. Now, it's not an accurate representation of what's going on like physically, but the energies, that's what it wants to do. And it's not necessarily, oh, really, really donated $10.
Thank you, really, really.
Thank you, really, really. This thing wants to merge with everything. So it's not that it wants to eat the planets to consume it, or planes, maybe that's a better way to put it. It wants to rather merge with everything, so it has total control over everything all up and down the line and lock consciousness into this particular game. Your thoughts?
I think that's...
I totally agree.
Yeah, that it creeps me out to see something like that. I mean, a black hole could really just be the mouth of a giant octopus.
Well, and just to underline how this thing was in the consciousness, we had our experience August of 2017 and started talking about this. Stranger Things came out in, I want to say, September or October of that year. Stranger Things Season 2. In Stranger Things Season 2, there is an octopus-like entity in the in-between world, and that's the whole adversary of that second season. Now, it wasn't released into the consciousness. People weren't watching it yet, but it takes a year or so to develop a story like that, and probably longer because the story was written down first. Then it was Michelle sent $20. Thank you, thank you so much, Michelle. Then it was written down first, then went into production. So whoever was the creator of Stranger Things Season 2 was onto this kind of stuff years before we saw it in the eclipse. So how do you explain that? Like, how do you explain the fact that we see this thing and somebody's already written a whole production about it and it releases it 2 months later? Had they released it before, it could be up for dispute. But they released it after the fact. So we're tapping into the exact same thing here, as I think this artist here is also tapping into. So there's something very real going on here.
I do agree with that.
Do you totally agree with that, though?
Yes. Arium purple.
So, nothing is beyond our reach.
Oh, yeah.
Again, more octopus symbolism over the Earth, which the Earth here, notice how it's represented. It's not represented like a planet, but it's represented with a grid.
Right.
You see that? So, there's a grid here. Outside of the grid is the octopus.
Mm-hmm.
And the octopus is a tech.
Yep.
So the tentacles can manifest. The tentacles can manifest into whatever. This is what we've been trying to say over the last couple of years. That, you know, we don't mean to speak poorly about anybody's belief systems or anything like that. We don't mean to make anybody feel bad. But the truth is the truth. And when we've seen these kind of things and they're confirmed in the three-dimensional after the fact, it's kind of hard to just dismiss them and go, okay, well, maybe the Arcturians are here to save us. Maybe the Palladians are here. Maybe bluebirds are here. And up until this point, I just thought, well, you know, people make up bullshit like Palladians and things like that, and that's fine. It's entertainment. Infotainment is what I used to call it. These fantastical stories about this and that. Then I realized the sinister manifestation of these things, and I realized, okay, well, it's not just bullshit stories. In some cases it is bullshit stories, but in other cases, it is being manifested from a very sinister central point here. But taking it even further, the only person that I've ever called out by name, because I find it very unclassy to do so. I don't like lowering myself to do things like this because I feel like it is lowering myself to a certain degree. But the importance of calling this person out by name is in direct weight with the insult or nefarious intention behind what's going on here, whether he intended it consciously or not, but David Wilcock with his freaking bluebirds. Now, if it was just a story of bluebirds, that's fine. I wouldn't even care. I wouldn't have even paid attention to it. But when you say that the big birds are the Egyptian pantheon, because the Egyptian pantheon are very real energies and they're very real within our consciousness, now you're mixing very real, very deep, and
very sacred
parts of our consciousness and gnosis with complete and total bullshit, which is the big bird, bluebirds ridiculousness that is essentially like Teletubbies. I mean, Teletubbies, Sesame Street, bluebirds, it's all the same. It's so it's like, don't mix your bullshit with something that's so deeply seated in raw consciousness.
Yes. We have a few questions just real quick. We'll cover them before we bring Luckee on.
Okay.
Sheree and Chris. Okay. My twin and I met almost 5 months ago, and neither of us can remember our dreams. Do you have any idea of what this could be? You can't remember your dreams. I'm a very active dreamer, and this isn't normal for either of us. Do you
want to take it?
Well, yeah, I was thinking, you know how whenever you put two like a pair of headphones, if I put the pair of headphones around this microphone, it would cause it to go, and then it would make a huge noise, and none of you would like that, and it would be very annoying. I think it could be it's transference of energy to the point where you're blocking each other out, as far as your dreams are concerned. I don't know what to suggest to fix that, though. I mean, I don't know if there is any way of fixing it. I think over time, maybe you guys will start to mesh together as far as the dream world goes. But it could be you two are canceling each other out.
That's pretty insightful. I would have taken it on a more three-dimensional level, because the first thing that comes to mind of things like this is what's changed in the environment. Have you had any Wi-Fi that's changed? We bought a new router, and this thing was freaking like powerful. It's like an industrial-sized freaking router, and I had to turn the Wi-Fi down to 25% because it was making me feel like absolute garbage, and I couldn't pinpoint where the heck this was coming from. And once I turned the Wi-Fi down, then everything started to level off again. But different types of environmental things. There was one guy I was talking to, and he was working with copper wiring for 10 years, and he couldn't have any psychedelic experiences because he was breathing all that stuff in, medications, things like that. You've got to look at environmental changes first, and if there's none, then go to the deeper levels. But I really like what you said. I wouldn't have thought to say that. Well done.
Ariam Perp said, how does it logically make sense that planets don't exist but aliens do, and how come these drugs you so love are created and grown in the AI simulation reveal truth to you? Maybe they mislead you.
No, nothing reveals truth to me. The drugs don't reveal truth. As a matter of fact, using the word drugs is we have to remove the negative connotation behind this word, because the definition of a drug is any substance or chemical that causes a physiological change when ingested or otherwise taken into the body. So air is a drug. Water is a drug. Literally, there's drugs literally everywhere. It's the same thing as vegetables. A vegetable you eat, and it has a physiological change within the body. So taking a tea from a bark and brewing it up, it's the exact same thing as eating a vegetable. So I would challenge that by saying, why are you scared to drink a tea from the same place that I'm sure you eat vegetables from? So that being said, the DMT doesn't give any information at all. What the DMT does is it removes the clutter. It removes the AI programming out of the way so you can get to information that already exists. This is my point completely. Not channeling information from external sources, not channeling information from Palladians or Bluebirds or Arcturians or anything like that, but rather going within to get the information from yourself. There's other ways you can go within, but the whole point is you have to remove the clutter from your consciousness. You have to remove all the overlays and the AI overlays and all this. DMT, it allows you to do that by helping to manifest within your consciousness all of your clutter so you can deal with it in the ayahuasca realm. I imagine it's very difficult to remove all of that clutter without DMT, because down in the Amazon, they say the ayahuasca vine is the healer, and it's the MAOI that's taken with it. And they say that the chacruna, which is the DMT-containing plant, is the helper. Now, this is very important here, because if you look at it from a scientific perspective, what the ayahuasca actually does is it gets into your stomach and gets the stomach ready for the DMT to become orally active. So you would imagine that the ayahuasca vine itself is the helper plant, while the DMT is the healer. But the shamans see it backwards. Why? Because what the DMT is actually doing, it's only helping to manifest the healing that's taking place within you, so you can have a visual representation of the clutter that you have to weed through in order to be able to get through it. So no, there is no information that is downloaded, channeled, or coming from any kind of plants whatsoever. The information is coming from the raw consciousness. The plants are only used to create it's just a tool. Yeah, to remove the clutter and create a hole through the clutter into the raw consciousness.
Right. And we never said planets don't exist. We said that...
Oh, how can aliens exist? Oh. These things are interdimensional.
Right.
They don't come from a distant planet. What makes more sense? That they exist here within our sphere, whether it's interdimensionally or even underground. Maybe there's an entire civilization underground, or that they've somehow figured out how to travel millions of light years. Because traveling millions of light years does not make sense to me whatsoever. I understand as a creator being that when I'm out of my physical body here, this three-dimensional, I can travel to any dimension that I want and anywhere that I want without a spaceship. The only reason I would need a spaceship is if I'm a third-dimensional being in a third-dimensional body. Otherwise, I can travel without one. So it makes me wonder if these things have to use ships, which everybody says that they have ships. And as a matter of fact, I had a really interesting experience of encountering three beings that looked very similar to these Arcturians. I didn't know how to describe them. I just described them as insectoids, and I can talk about this here in a moment. And we'll bring on Luckee here in just a second, too. I lost my train of thought. So why would they need ships? That's the big question that I ask. Because they're lower dimensional beings. They can't travel in other ways. We can, though. And they know that we can, and so they're utilizing us as vehicles. But one of the first encounters I had was actually on a spaceship in the ayahuasca realm. And I found myself on this spaceship. I don't know where to begin on this, because I don't want to just go on and on and on and on about it, but I guess let me back up just a little bit. So I found myself in this room that was these geometric patterns swirling around. You know, it was heaven for, you know, all I forget what the phrase is.
Intents and purposes.
Yes, thank you. You can fill in my sentences every once in a while. I don't get mad when you do that.
I don't get mad when you do it.
You do that too. So it was, sorry, I'm bringing Luckee on. Luckee, we're going to get to you here in just a moment. So, it was heaven for all intents and purposes. All intents and purposes. However, I wanted more out of the experience. I didn't want to go to this heaven state. I wanted to really break down reality. And so when I proclaimed that in the DMT realm, I want more, I want to see more, I noticed that there was this alien-looking thing staring at me, and I found myself to be in like this shoebox. And the shoebox was this space that I was in where there was this heaven-type place. And I saw this eye looking down at me like that, but I knew it was connected to a body. It was like an extraterrestrial type of body. And I looked at it, and I'm like, oh, I see that. It was like this, all of a sudden I saw it and I started pushing all these geometric patterns out of my way so I can get to that space where this being existed. And once I removed all of that artificial heaven type of feelings from my sphere, I got into this space where these three beings existed, very much like this motif that's up here on the screen right now. And they looked at me and they said, what are you doing here? And I said, I want to know who you are. I want to know where you came from. I want to know what's going on. And there was a little ball of energy. It didn't look like this. It looked more like a ball of energy rather than having any type of internal form like this picture here on the screen has. And I'm like, what is that? And I'm like, this is the universe. No, actually, I take that back because I encountered them twice in this experience. They didn't talk to me the first time. The first time they said, what are you doing here? And they pushed me away and they said, you're just a talking monkey. Go back to your monkey business. And they pushed me away back into this little box of artificial heaven type of feelings. And it felt great to be there. It was like, oh yes, I'm one with the universe. I'm connected with all, you know, I had no identity. It's the state that the New Age has been pushing us to try to achieve, the state of nothingness and oneness with all, which is a great state to experience, but it's not the end all be all, as I'm about to demonstrate here in this experience. So I found myself back in here and I'm like, oh, is it even worth me pushing through all this again? Maybe I should just enjoy this. You know, the music, the drums were just bum, 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 bum. I think we had Enigma playing or something like that. I mean, it was just this beautiful experience. Everything was glowing and spinning and it was great. And then I caught myself again, go, no, catch yourself, okay? Remember your identity, remember who you are. You're, you know, hold on to the Chris Geo identity here, control this experience. And when I did, I said, okay, I remember who I am. I remember what I'm doing. I need to go back there so I can see what's going on over there. I want to know what's going on behind the scenes. So I push through all this stuff again and I get to this area with these three beings again. And they had these insect-like voices. And I said, I want to know who the hell you are. I want to know who created you. I want to know all this. And what is that? And finally they said, that's the universe. I said, did you create it? I said, no, we didn't create it. We just maintain it. And I said, okay, show me how it works. And I was making demands now. I was in charge of the experience. And because I took hold of the experience, because I said, okay, this is who I am. I understand who I am. They took me into a back room. And in this back room, there were these computer systems, same computer systems that I encountered up in the 13th density when I went in the sarcophagus of the Great Pyramid up to the 13th. And if you're not familiar with that story, go to resettingthematrix.com. So they showed me all these different screens and things like that, and I got on the screens and I started creating rain, I started creating reality, and I could see there was more in the background going on here, kind of like behind the scenes kind of area of the Matrix. And there were all these little worker bees, and they were sitting there working, and they were all little, you know, they look like this. I mean, there's no other way to describe them. They look like this. They weren't as tall in this particular experience, but they look like this. And I was making it rain, and I pulled up an image of Brazil, and I programmed a few things, and I made it rain in Brazil. And I was like, oh, this is freaking cool. And what was funny is that this space that I was in was more of a plasma type space, but the image on the monitor was three-dimensional without a doubt. I was looking at actual trees. I was looking as if you were watching television as opposed to everything was just kind of a plasma. Proceed too much with the story until I see that we're reconnected here. It might actually be our streaming relay that keeps going down. All right, so I think we're back now. Maybe. I don't know. All right. So we were just getting deep. I don't know where we got cut off, ladies and gentlemen, but, you know, it is what it is. I'll call the internet provider again and ask them what the hell's going on here. So, anyways, long story short, I'm in this place with these three beings here. I see the Matrix right there, and I'm looking out of a window that looks like outer space. And I'm like, you know, this whole reality is just essentially just a little ball of energy on a spaceship that's moving through the cosmos. And I was joking about it for a couple of years afterwards, but I was making it rain in Brazil as I was on this little computer system. And the next day I found out that there was a huge flood in Brazil. And I'm like, oh crap, did I do that? And I would joke with Sheree and saying, yeah, I think I actually caused that while I was in the experience. And I never really paid much mind to it until we went to Egypt and made it flood for 3 days in Egypt through the same type of means. And then somebody connected this in the chat the other day, and I realized, oh, wait a minute, that was actually training for what was going on in Egypt. But anyways, I'm jumping all around on this story and all of this. But I saw the spaceship. I was on the spaceship, right? And I was there with these 3 beings. But these 3 beings were deceptive. These 3 beings were manipulative. They pushed me back into this artificial heaven and said, go back to your monkey business talking monkey. And it wasn't until I took the power for myself and I said, no, I know who I am. It was like almost as if they could manipulate me until I figured out who I was. And then when I remembered who I was, then I was in complete control of them. And I wasn't even controlling them in a manipulative kind of way. They had to listen to my commands. Just like a computer system that has to listen to the commands of the programmer when you realize you're the programmer and you can go in there and do whatever you want. And so, when I asked them who created this, they started answering my questions. They started showing me how things work. They started showing me all of this stuff. And so, taking all these experiences combined, I have to look at these extraterrestrials that we encounter, and especially all of these people that are contacting all of these different entities, and say, hey, wait a minute. If we are legitimately the creator beings, which I know we are, all these things are manipulating us. Now, there is another perspective to all of this, and I'm going to get into this very briefly because I do want to bring Luckee on here in a moment. But the other perspective is, it is possible that we're dealing with several different types of consciousness, not only NPC consciousness and organic consciousness, but also other types of consciousness as well. And so it's possible that some of these people that are contacting these extraterrestrial beings and things like that, and they have, all these other people that are also contacting them and all of this, maybe they are legitimately their spirit guides because they're not creator beings as we are. I don't like to think in that dynamic because I feel like it's an ego thing. But again, I've realized that the ego is two-sided. It's overinflation of the self. It's, that perspective, that what we normally think of as ego, but it's also the underestimating of the self too. It's the false humility. It's, you have to be balanced. You have to be sure of who you are. You have to understand who you are, but you don't let who you are completely just run freaking wild, because then it turns into different scenarios that we've seen before. So I'm wondering, like, maybe the people following all of these extraterrestrials do so because they really need to. Or maybe the extraterrestrials are NPC kind of things, and the NPCs are the ones who are going to send to source, who are going to do this and do that, and maybe that's a progression from the NPCs. So it's possible that everybody in this sphere is completely right for everybody, but the difference is that it's not right for every single person. It's right, the Palladians are right for the Palladian people, the Bluebirds are right for the Bluebird people, raw consciousness is right for us. I don't know. All I know is that all I can tell you is my experiences, and I can tell you the journey that I've been through to come to the understandings and gnosis that I have today. But my gnosis may not apply to everybody. It may not apply to some of you out there that are listening. If you're not resonating, you're not resonating. There's a reason you're not resonating. One of two. Either A, this information isn't for you, or B, you're being manipulated by other energies that are causing conflicts with something that is supposed to be resonating. And I can't tell you what's what. I can't tell you what's right for you. Only you can make that determination. And I think ultimately, that's the message that's lacking in all of this. From everybody out there that I hear about, from the Bluebirds to the Palladians to all of that. The message that is lacking is that you need to do what's right for you. Everybody out there is saying you need to do this because this is right. Nobody's saying you need to do what's right for you. And that's the ultimate message, is you need to do what is right for you.
Right. And it's not really about skepticism versus open-mindedness on this kind of thing. It's more about discernment. What we throw out most of what we have seen on YouTube or any of these new agey kind of circles. I mean, we throw out most of what we see and what we hear because we don't resonate with it. It's really up to your own discernment, not skepticism. Healthy skepticism is a good thing. We've got a lot of that between the two of us. But if we're hearing something and it may sound reasonable, but we're not resonating with it. It doesn't. Our discernment is not triggering, but our discernment is telling us, okay, this isn't quite right. Then, it gets left out, and I think that's extremely healthy. So, are we going to bring Luckee on?
We are. Let's go
Okay.
to a quick break, and on the other side we have Luckee of Quantum Connection. She's going to tell us about her first psychedelic experience. I don't want to call her out and say how old she is, but let's just say her first psychedelic experience of her life, which I think is really, really, really cool. And we're all really, really proud of her for taking the journey. And I can already tell right after talking to her that she's changed afterwards.
Excellent.
So we'll be right back in 2 minutes.
The universe grows smaller every day, and the threat of aggression by any group, anywhere, can no longer be tolerated. There must be security for all, or no one is secure. For our policemen, we created a race of robots. Their function is to patrol the planets in spaceships like this one and preserve the peace. We have given them absolute power over us. At the first sign of violence, they act automatically against the aggressor. The penalty for provoking their action is too terrible to risk.
Dead or alive, you are coming with me.
Who are you? I am the architect. I created the Matrix.
Listen and understand. It can't be bargained with. It can't be reasoned with. It doesn't feel pity or remorse or fear. And it absolutely will not stop, ever, until you are dead.
I came here to give you these facts. This Earth of yours will be reduced to a burned-out cinder.
We don't know who struck first, us or them. But we know that it was us that scorched the sky.
Your choice is simple. Join us and live in peace, or face obliteration. We shall be waiting for your answer. The decision rests with you.
Here, everything is decided here. You cannot comprehend the magnitude, the rapture and the tragedy of this moment. And yet you must. This is the sublime moment of our undoing, the ineffable fulcrum upon which swings the entirety of our history. You must understand. Our presence here doesn't alter history. You and I meet here because we are compelled to. We have always met here. We are merely passengers on the wheel of destiny, describing a perfect circle to this point. I've seen the beginning and the end of our story, however, and the tale is crude and ill-conceived. We must rewrite the ending of it. You and I. What you feel is the pull of history rushing to meet us. This is where history and destiny collide. We're hurtling towards our destinies. Even now, the time stream strains to divert itself. The future is reshuffling itself to accommodate your monumental decision. This is where we restore ourselves. This is where we reclaim our intended destinies. It's all laid out for you here. I'll not ask you to trust me. Your truths are for you to discover alone. There's a third option. A monumental secret hidden in your very presence here. But it's a secret you have to discover for yourself. Unearth your destiny. It's all laid out for you here.
My dear traveler, the purpose of raw consciousness is never to destroy. It is always to create. Build bridges. Create happiness. And bring forth new life. We must live in the hope that mankind will draw together. And that we better understand each other. The more that we awaken, the easier this will become. Now rise. Follow your conductors. And fear no danger. As you step beyond the veil.
All right, let's jump back into it. And as you can see, we're missing the little twin here, but she'll be back here in just a moment. I asked her to make a little bit of coffee for me, but so we can jump into it with Luckee. I do want to wait for Sheree to get back, though, because I want her to be here for the full story of Luckee's first psychedelic experience. I'm so happy to be able to talk to her about this, because she was a little bit reluctant to talk about it yet. She wanted to digest everything first, and I totally get it, and I twisted her arm a little bit, so I take full responsibility for that. But I'm just so happy to see people breaking through all of these different barriers and everything. Oh, here comes the little twin right now, right on time. So thank you, little twin, for the fresh pot of coffee. You know, I was drinking this instant stuff from Starbucks, and I thought, oh, how easy it is. It doesn't taste that bad. But oh my God, it was making me feel like absolute garbage. So yeah, I had to just ditch that. Otherwise, it would have been like a 2-second thing to run down and make some more coffee.
Yeah.
But anyways, how are you, little twin?
I'm good.
Are you? Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Let's bring Luckee on here. I think we have her on. Luckee, how are you?
I'm doing great, thank you.
Are you doing great? You look like you're glowing.
Am I?
A little bit.
Yeah, you are.
I heard you doing the news today, and I heard it in your voice going, you know what? This is all illusionary BS.
Here's Tom with the weather.
You're like, all right, here's what the gold prices are and all this. And you're like,
exactly.
I can tell you were thinking, you know, what does this even have to do with anything at this point? I don't mean to speak for you, though. So tell us about your experience. Please tell us maybe what you were thinking before you took it, what brought you to take it, and then we'll get into the experience itself.
Okay. Because we had been talking about it for a long time, and I always had an active pineal gland anyway. So I was having visions. I could see the future. I've had prophecy, things like that. I've seen miraculous healing. So I knew my pineal gland was really juicy. Anyway, so let's see. So you guys talking about it for so long, and talking about the inner work. We all need to do inner work. No matter how perfect. I mean, the strive for perfection is the good thing. Not being perfect, but striving for perfection. And I am a Christian, so we have to consider that too. I mean, this is in the Bible, right? So
yeah, but we'll change that by the end of all this, so don't worry about it. We'll remove all those labels from you. No, I'm just teasing.
Well, yeah, that's the thing. That's the thing. You see, I'm not one who is. I'm not a Bible thumper. Even though we had some callers today that was talking about the Bible and things like that. So that was an interesting moment. So. Okay, so
it puts the Bible in a new perspective. I mean, realistically, John the Revelator, he was on Patmos that had nothing but psychedelic mushrooms and other psychedelic plants to eat.
Psilocybin.
Yeah, the burning bush was the acacia, where DMT comes from. So you have psychedelics in the Bible. Let me preface this conversation by saying that Luckee had 4 medium doses of psilocybin. Now, she didn't know that you were only supposed to take 1. So she wound up taking 2, which I'm so proud of her for doing so. But she took 2 very high doses of psilocybin. So this is what we're talking about tonight. So please go ahead.
Yeah, it was pretty heavy. Let's see. So I was very afraid, to be honest with you. I didn't know I was afraid all this time. I had been wanting to prepare for it and make sure that I would be safe in the environment, you know, that kind of thing. So what I did is I fasted for the day prior. For the most part, I mean, I did cheat. I had some olives, you know, to, you know, make my stomach shut up. But I didn't know I was really afraid. When I realized I had the opportunity and all the environment was set up properly for me to feel safe in doing this, I got scared. My body started manifesting fear. The fear things like heart palpitations, stomach tensing, the shaking, you know, all kinds of things. And my brain started kicking into gear saying, oh, you can't do this because of this or whatever. Having all these different fear manifestations showed up. I'm like, as soon as I recognized that there was fear there, I realized, oh, I'm doing this because I don't play with fear very much. I don't like fear and I attack it. Anything that makes me fearful, I attack. So that's why I decided to do this. And when I did. So let's see, I took it, but I have to preface something. Something interesting happened yesterday morning. Yes, it was yesterday morning. A neighbor came. Well, let me preface it this way. First, I saw a deer, and she came. It was a doe, and it was an older doe, and she came out of the woods, and she was following the deer trail. She was just walking, but she was looking off, you know, not at me, but past me. And I turn around and I feed the cats. I just put the dish down because I had the food, you know, already ready. And I put the dish down. I look up again. The deer is not there. But now my neighbor, an older lady, is walking along that deer trail. Okay, that was very interesting. Yeah.
Do you think she shapeshifted into a deer? Or the deer shapeshifted back into that lady?
I think so. I've never seen this before. Okay, I've heard of it and I didn't have any doubts about it, but I had never seen it for myself.
You know what's funny is when you said that, well, let me preface it by saying that up to this point, I've always felt that animals are NPCs. They're good NPCs. They're loving NPCs. Kitty cats, for example, they're the most awesome thing in the world. Dogs, all of this, I love them. They're great. But they exist within the matrix itself. Mm-hmm. So they don't have bodies outside, which makes them NPCs or, you know, manifestations of the matrix itself. But when you said that it's possible that some humans can shapeshift into, like, the deer, for example, and you were pondering that idea, it made me go, maybe there's some truth to that. Maybe some people have the ability to shapeshift into different types of animals and we just don't know it. So that brings a whole new perspective to the idea that animals could indeed be organic. So you're helping me expand my consciousness at the exact same time.
Hmm. And it threw me off too, because I didn't know it'd be so physical. I've seen people with animal spirits, but I never saw a shapeshift happen before. That was very odd. So I had a very paranormal morning yesterday morning, but I forgot about it because in light of the fact that I knew what I was about to do, this fearsome thing. And so when it came time to it, when I took the dose, I thought I was supposed to take 2. So I took 2, and as I understand it, Chris says that was pretty epic for a first timer.
Yeah, it is.
Well, you took
brave.
Well, you took about 5/6 of what I take. So you took a pretty close to a good hero dose of it.
Yeah,
and didn't realize it. So, I mean, hey, that's the way to do it, though. Balls to the wall, you know. I can't applaud you more for that. Well, if I would have told you to take 2, I don't think you would have. I think you would have said, no, that's way too powerful. But the fact that you did, I think that was the higher self stepping in and going, no, I need to go deep.
I think you're right. I really think you're right on that. I really do.
I think that
so.
The consciousness actually rewards. It's like you reward yourself. The higher self rewards the lower self for, you know, taking a back seat and letting the higher self make the decisions on that. And because I've noticed that I do very poorly on a 20-gram dose of ayahuasca, whereas if I go ahead and do 40 or 50 grams at once, then I have this mind-blowing, amazing, wonderful experience. And so, oh, there's the kitty cat.
Aw.
That's Bast.
Hey, Beth.
That is Bast right there.
Aw.
She wanted to come be a part of the energy.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, her name is Bast. Go figure. Just in case you don't know, folks out there, Bast is the Egyptian goddess of old Egypt.
Yep.
The new Egypt, she was called Bastet.
Mm-hmm.
This is Bast, and she's super affectionate right now. But I have that, and so cats play a part in this adventure also. And I'll tell you that I don't remember the order of things, so bear with me. So when I first took it, it was daylight. It was very pretty. Okay, get down. Come on, get down. Anyway,
she wants to be in your energy field right now.
Yes.
Yeah, but
has she been more loving?
Energy field. Oh God. Well, yeah, that, and we had to take her babies to the shelter. So.
Oh.
Yeah. I can't take care of all of them. It's just too many kittens around here.
We have a question for you before you get into
Yes.
your experience. Rad Rye wants to know, what was your intention going into the experience? Or did you have an intention?
First most was conquer that fear that was bothering me. That's one. Two is to see what was up with it. Because I wanted to see the construct and what everybody was talking about, this construct thing. I wanted to dive into the spirit. What?
No, you wanted to see the Matrix. That's a pretty hardcore intention.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I want to see what the heck is up there. And not only that, I wanted to also find out what was wrong, if you will, with myself. What the hell's wrong with you? That kind of thing, and start working on myself. Okay. That's what I think that was my intention. Yeah.
Wow. That's pretty amazing. I mean, you took a pretty much a hero dose, and you had the intention that you just want to break all the veils. Essentially, this is what I'm picking up from it. Which a lot of people tiptoe, they get their feet wet, and they don't really know what their intention is. They want to see elves, or they want to see pretty colors, or something like that. Mm-hmm. And you just went.
I didn't want to see elves. I didn't. After what you all told me, because see, I learned from others' mistakes. All right, if somebody else tells their mistakes, I'm going to learn from it, and I'm going to pay attention. And you all were talking about the nursery. You were talking about the elves. I was like, I don't need that crap. I what's really going on? I want to get to the meat and potatoes of the situation. If I'm going to do this thing, let's do it right. Okay.
I commend you. I mean, that's I commend you 100%.
Beautiful.
You're making me feel funny now.
Like I had 100% respect for you before, but now I have 1,000% respect. So I don't know how that works, but yeah.
But okay, so took the dose, and I knew it was going to take a few minutes for it to kick in because it was in my stomach, of course, right? When I took the dose, I was like, okay, just sitting outside, enjoying the beautiful weather we were having. Nice sunny. It was about 5:00 in the evening. And like I said, it was sunny. It was beautiful outside, and just breathing. I remembered that is to breathe, because some people forget to breathe, right? Mm-hmm. So I could feel that it was coming on. I was like, this pulse. First, there was a pulse. Like, whoa. And it was like an introduction to, okay, we're about to go in. And I could feel it. And I told my friend, I said, it's hitting. I knew it was hitting. I could feel it, Didn't know what it was, but I could feel it. And then it really hit me hard. And it looked like I had, it looked like everything, I don't know how to say this. Okay, hang on a second. The trees and the sun and everything out there, little bitty faces and some big faces. In the clouds, there was faces in the clouds, and they weren't identifiable faces. I couldn't tell you what animal, creature, or whatever have you. I've never seen it before, but it all looked like facial features, little bitty ones, big ones, the trees, the leaves, everything. And pink and purple was so prominent, and green, that bright spring green color, chartreuse, I think it's called. So that was really vivid. And I basically took a trip to the land of, whoa, you know. And I know this because my friend told me, he said, be sure to let everybody know. All I was doing was saying, whoa, whoa, whoa. Things were closer and further away. 3D vision, I have to tell you about that. I normally did not have 3D vision. I don't have depth perception. And yes, I can drive and things like that because of compensation all my life. So compensating all my life, you know, you still, like, the TV screen would look like a three-dimensional thing or a real life thing to me because it was normal. So anyway, everything was like here and there and here and there. You know, it was amazing because I kept on looking at my hands, kept looking at the walls, and the ceiling was amazing. That was an amazing thing because I did come inside and I started looking at the ceiling, and it's got that popcorn, you know, that popcorn surface there that they put on the ceilings. And when I looked up at that, it looked like lace or doilies, you know, just moving like back and forth like this. I don't know how to explain it. The layers of the doilies were changing places, you know, bottommost, topmost, and the shadows kept on moving. The ceiling fan here, the shadow from it actually looked like Cocopelli.
Oh, that's interesting because I had a Cocopelli on my wall. And when Frank came over and did his first ayahuasca ceremony, I wound up giving him the Cocopelli from my wall as a gift. And he's got it in his studio now. And now you're seeing Cocopelli. So pretty interesting connection there.
Yes, it is.
Cocopelli is the, just for people that don't know, in the, I want to say Mayan culture, he was the musician. He was the...
musician, trader, flute player, demigod.
Yeah, yeah. He was a little bit of a trickster too, a little bit of a joker.
Yes.
But he wasn't mischievous, but he liked to just...
Entertainer.
He was an entertainer, yes. Okay.
Yeah, he was an entertainer, demigod. And the tribes all welcomed him whenever he came by. He was very revered, and it was considered good luck to receive him and things like that. Anyway, so, I mean, that was just a minor part, that the Cocopelli thing. I keep on looking up sometimes. So if you see me looking up, instead I'm checking, you know.
I do the same thing. Like when I'm talking, I'm reliving it. So I'll look up, I'll look down, I'll look left and right, wherever. Yeah. So no, go right ahead.
Okay. So on the deck again, I'm sorry, out when I was outside still, and I was looking at the floor, the deck, the wood grain and such, right? And dude, that thing, it had codes in them. All right. The different boards had different codes. One was like binary, you know, black and white, and it's going by, it's moving, you know, one way. The other board is moving down this way, and it's got different signals. It's not a bar cross and a thing. It had different shapes to the let's say binary, but instead of one, you have a different shape. Okay. And instead of a 2 or 3 or 4 or anything like that, it would have different shapes, like block shapes, kind of Tetris-y. But that's on one board. Okay, and then there's another board that has a different signature. Everything had a different signature. Trees had a different signature. And now, this is the amazing thing. I could see the energy frequencies around trees again, like when I was a little girl.
Ooh.
Ooh.
So you could see the life, you could see the energy flowing through them.
Yeah, yeah.
So you said something interesting there. You said, like when I was a little girl. So what do you think happened between then and now that you were not able to see them?
A couple of things. I think fluoride, of course, and growing up, the don'ts. As we grow older, when we are raising our children, we teach them no's, don'ts, can'ts. That's what we teach them. We don't teach them can, do, go ahead. We don't teach them that. We teach them a bunch of no's and don'ts and can'ts. Don't do that. Get off that couch. Stop climbing trees. girls don't whistle. Look at all the programming. That happens. That's what happens. And yeah.
The
That's what
programming. The programming. That's exactly what we've been talking about here on BTV is the overlay programs that we're subjected to.
Right.
And I had just said this before we brought you on, that the DMT or psilocybin, it doesn't give you any information. It breaks down the programming so you can get past all of that, so you can finally see with what I call the raw consciousness. So,
right. But yeah, everything I looked at the house totally differently. Now, that was very interesting because I went to my bedroom. I mean, I had spent some time. I think I fell asleep a couple times in my chair here. I just laid back and, I was totally relaxed. All my muscles were relaxed. Okay. And this was you got to keep in mind, this was a long trip. I don't know what time I came down from it exactly because I decided that I was hungry and I started trying to cook. Don't do that, folks.
It lasts pretty long. This particular stuff that you took lasts quite a bit of time. But it's easy to eat afterwards, though. There's like the come down's really not. There's no come down. It's all smooth and everything, and yeah. So I can relate. I bet you cooked eggs, huh? Because that's what we always cook. No.
What did I have? I think it was chicken and vegetables. Yeah.
Chicken and veggies, nice.
Yeah, and broccoli and such.
We used to go fishing all day out in the lake, and then we'd catch whatever we caught, and then we would cook it that night after we drank.
Right.
But that just turned into a huge pain in the butt, so we stopped doing it. I love fresh fish out of the lake, but they get so stinky. You get it all over your hands, and then during the ayahuasca, you're like, I still smell freaking fish on my hands. What the hell?
Use lemon. Lemon will take care of that, shouldn't it?
Sometimes.
No? Okay.
I think we have Fukushima fish here, though.
Oh.
Yeah, there's some kind of funky taste in the lake. Like, lake water tastes weird, but when you're swimming in it, and then there's something wrong, even though it's crystal clear. I mean, you can see to the bottom in some areas, but it's still something wrong with the water here. I think the pumpkins are letting us know. Did you see that all the stuff on the pumpkins? Yeah, so you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah. Oh, they're so warty.
Mm-hmm. It's not natural.
No, there's something wrong with that. I wonder what that looks like when you're tripping.
I wouldn't want to look at that when I'm tripping.
No?
Not the warts on the pumpkins, no.
Nah.
I do remember saying something.
I feel sorry for the pumpkins.
I know, right? You'd go pet them or something.
Yeah.
Poor baby. Aww.
You're so ugly. Nobody wants to eat you.
Well, when I saw those pumpkins, I was like, this is a signal from nature that something is really wrong.
Yeah.
Like, the pumpkins are showing us the soil is bad. It reminds me of this old Twilight Zone we were watching. Were we watching a Twilight Zone about post-apocalypse, and there was a guy that came in, and they had all this food, and they were like, no, the food's bad, and then they would go up to see the oracle in the cave, and the oracle would tell them when the food is bad, and it turned out the oracle was a computer, and the guy was going up there and doing radiation tests
like
on
radiation
stuff.
testing.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah. This was in like 1950, 1960.
Yep.
So, anyways, let's get back to the experience.
There's something I did notice that, and I know I made comment. I made sure to say it out loud to make sure that it resonated, if you will. No fear. There was no fear there. None. And there was no pain. Okay. I didn't feel any pain. None of my normal aches and, all gone. My muscles were relaxed. Very relaxed. But like I said, I was saying whoa a lot because things were coming up, things would go back, I'm trying to remember what it was, and I can't write when I'm up there, okay? I tried to write to you guys, and it was like, what is this? I'm sitting there clicking away when I'm high. It didn't work. It didn't work. Machines don't work, But beyond that, I was not near my phone. I don't think it rang or anything.
Well, you said something interesting. You said you were in a place with no pain and no fear. And this is what I found time and time again through my experiences is the ego knows it's about to be shattered in these experiences. So it creates all these anxieties, it creates worries, it creates all kinds of stuff. And it happens to the best of us. I've been doing this 25 years and it still happens to me where we're about to drink and then you know what, I'm kind of hungry. The energies aren't right tonight. Let's go order pizza instead. We'll get a vegetarian one. That way we're not breaking our fast. And then we'll eat tomorrow night. How about that?
We'll drink tomorrow night. Yeah.
And it happens. And all it is, it's the ego not wanting to be shattered.
Right.
And so it creates all these reasons and fears and all of this. But when you finally get to it and you finally shatter that ego, you realize there's no fear, there's no pain, there's nothing like that. And it's a beautiful experience. I've never come back from an experience and go, damn it, I wish I hadn't done that. It's always been, why haven't I done it sooner?
Right. That's a good point right there. Now let's go to music. Really, you got to be careful what music you listen to. So luckily, I got to hear good music like Queen, We Are the Champions. I think it was that song that came on. Nice. Oh, hell yeah. That was awesome. Yeah. Okay. That's the one I remember. And I think I was singing. Yeah, I was singing too.
Pink Floyd, man. Pink Floyd. Dark Side of the Moon.
I don't know if I was ready for that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. This, first time, man.
That's true. That's true.
But basically the noise. That's it. I meant to say I could hear the machine nonstop throughout the whole thing. And it was coming from a place that was beyond my vision.
The machine.
Kind of like that, whatever that was. It sounded just like that, whatever that was.
The machine.
Yeah.
What machine?
The machine that's running everything.
Oh.
It was beyond my vision, and it was constant tone. It wasn't clanking. It was just, I can't mimic the sound. Usually I can do that, but I just can't do it right now. I can't make it happen. And it was, like I said, right beyond my vision. So that told me a lot right there as far as this construct. Because it was beyond my vision. Why? Why couldn't I just focus in on it? I was too distracted by the pretty colors.
So the machine, was it like a?
Yeah.
You know what's funny about that is that this is what we're told is the meditative state, though.
No, this was a machine. This wasn't anything spiritual.
Yeah, we did this in the pyramid first. We did this for like a good 20 minutes where we were just shaking the whole room with I was doing it, she was doing it. It was overlapping on top of one another.
I heard you guys.
All of this, yeah. But you mentioned that this is the sound of the machine, and I'm wondering, why are we matching the frequency of the machine to put ourselves in these meditative states? Could that be a deception and a trap to go at the same frequency of the machine?
Okay.
I'm just thinking out loud here, but it's
you guys did this, and I heard you because you recorded it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Oh, it was like the humming in the pyramid.
No, it was not like that. That's what the point I'm trying to make.
Oh, okay.
It was not like the humming in the pyramid. And especially I recall Sheree's voice when she joined in with you on that.
Mm-hmm.
And it was not that tone. It was not that note.
Oh, okay.
This is something different. This is something different. And it wasn't electricity. It wasn't, I can't say what it was or wasn't really, except for the fact that I knew it wasn't electricity because it has a different noise. But now to, let's see, nighttime, when it became nighttime. Yeah, it was incredible. I would walk around and just stand in the middle of the room for no reason and just looking at everything going, whoa, it was pretty cool. And when I went outside, now I have something to say about Bast. You guys met Bast. She has a juvenile son who I've got outside. He's our outside kitty. He's supposed to be the barn kitty. That's not working. Anyway, he's a lap kitty. But he's big, and this is going to kind of blow some folks' mind, I think. When I went out there to go smoke a cigarette and look at the stars, which there's tons of stars, dude. Oh, my God. Oh, my God, there's so many stars. I mean,
My God, it's full
Whoa.
of stars.
smartass.
I love you, Luckee.
I love you too, girl. But it's true.
Mm-hmm.
There
Yeah.
were so many stars out there, and I could see far more of them. Now, I'm always a sky watcher, and I'm always looking at the stars, and I know, generally if there's more or less. If the sky, if it's cloudy, I'm not going to see as much and things like that. But this had far more stars than ever, and it's curious. What was I seeing? Was I seeing further out there or what? Anyway, so I'm out there and I'm smoking a cigarette. And the cat, the juvenile, and I'm leaning on the banister like this, and I've got my back kind of more parallel than upright. And Jack, Bast's little boy, if you will, little boy kitty, he jumps on my back and he sits there and he's purring and he goes and he starts touching different parts of my back. And he starts telling me, he says, "You have a problem with your kidneys."
So he was talking to you? Was he speaking telepathically?
Like
to you?
telepathically to you?
Somebody
Or
actually
did you
just
actually
asked that in the chat
hear-
room.
I can't say because he was on my back. I couldn't see his mouth move.
It's like a gnosis, like a consciousness
It's
communication.
it's a communication through almost, it's not telepathy, but it's more like a understanding intent immediately.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, because I didn't know I had a problem with my kidneys. Why would I have a problem with my kidneys? I don't have a problem with my kidneys. I don't do problems with my kidneys. So
Bast,
when he did that,
well, Bast is a healer, or Bastet is. She's more of the healing aspect, and then Sekhmet is that warrior goddess, rah, rip your throat out kind of aspect. But then the Bastet is more the healer, so that would make sense that she would be diagnosing you.
that wasn't her. It was her son, her juvenile son.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. Yeah. But here's the interesting part about that you don't know about. First, he was Horus. Yeah. I could see it, but he was looking like Horus. Okay.
Oh.
Then he changed to Thoth. Then he changed to Anubis. And I was like, look at you. You look like Anubis like that. And I was playing with me.
You look like Anubis.
Yeah. It was very strange. And then afterwards, there was this, because it was dark outside, so there was no light, so you can't see color, right, in the black and white. And his whole outside, he was glowing gray, a lighter gray. He's a black cat. So black on black, and you could see the gray outline of him. It was really...
So it was like an energy field that you were seeing.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it wasn't static electricity. Don't ask that. Okay. It was not static electricity, but it was really, really cool. Yeah.
That's
I'm still
interesting
thinking.
because, the Egyptians revered cats. And I love kitties. I love dogs and all that. I wonder what kind of role they play, because Sheree had experiences where her kitty as a child took on some of her ailments and things like that.
Yeah.
They're energy movers. They move energy for sure. And so
they absorb bad energy
yeah,
too.
it's funny that he came to you and said, okay, here's the bad energy, and just kind of knew, like, okay, you're in a state right now that I can work on you. I've been waiting for this. Finally, it's here. All right, so I'm going to start fixing you.
This is his little job.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and he did it again, but he didn't transform. I didn't see him transform. He just did it a little while ago again.
Oh, wow.
He just got on my back and did the same thing. Yeah, he was parked there, just sitting there, laying there.
So you're still having some of the... It's not visions, but it's more like... not flashbacks either, but it's kind of like flashbacks.
Things are really happening. He really was on my back.
No, but he's
Just now, yeah.
transforming, is what you were
No,
saying.
no. He's on the back working.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Aw.
Yeah, he didn't transform again. No, that I thought I was saying that. I'm sorry.
Oh, well, people are saying you look 15 years younger. and that
Dude.
me and you, we have like the same like energy. Because I really think that my psychedelic experiences have brought me to where I am now, as far as the way I look and the energy I exude. And you look different. Like, you look like there's a major transformation occurred last night.
I could see it.
Something
Yeah,
major happened.
I can see it in you, and I can hear it in your voice too. That it's
Same
like,
here.
like I told you earlier, it's like there's something that was lifted,
A weight lifted.
A weight
Oh,
lifted.
yeah. Huge weight lifted. And I'll tell you something. I was standing up today and walking, and I feel like I did when I was 15 years ago. Okay. I walked the same because I was worried about my gait. Because I don't walk I hadn't been walking the way I used to. And I'm bothered by that, because people are defined and they are identified by their gait. And I wasn't walking the same. And I knew that was communicating something other than what I want to communicate, you know? So I'm walking differently today. I'm standing differently today. And I feel like my center of gravity is back where it belongs. And my feet are on the ground, but I feel so much lighter. I don't feel like I'm the weight that the scale says I am.
So there's something that's been removed.
Well,
how long?
Yeah,
how long
something.
was the experience? You said it was what, about 8 hours, 6 hours, 4 hours?
Let's see. Hang on. Let's see. So 9:30 is when I tried to start cooking. I really messed up some of the vegetables. Don't cook, guys. Don't cook, guys.
Don't
when you're
cook on
out here.
psychedelics. You know.
Yeah. Make sure you're totally back, okay, before you start trying to cook.
I agree.
It came out like bad.
Aw.
That's okay. I'll live and learn. But what's the other thing? There was another thing. Oh, when I went by my shop today, and it was amazing how I looked at it. I was like, dude, it's just paper mache. It's just paper. That is only a facade. I'm not high. I was not high or tripping or anything, but it looks so much different now. And now I'm seeing in 3D. I have depth perception now. It's amazing. I'm like, it's not, whoa, dude. You know, I don't want anybody thinking it's like, oh, dude. No, I'm seeing actually, you know, that this is in front of the other. You know, I don't know how to explain it.
I know what you mean,
So,
because Sheree's
same here.
described certain similar things, and Dennis McKenna, when he was down in La Chorrera, he came across the transcendental object at the end of time and grabbed it and threw off his glasses and says, "I don't need these anymore," and he's running
He was
around
on
like
a
that.
high dose of mushrooms.
Yeah, there's something about the psychedelics that gives you your vision back. Even if it's just temporary, because we seem to, you know, like with me, I have to wear reading glasses. After I drink ayahuasca, I no longer need them, but then it fades and kind of goes back and forth and back and forth.
Yeah, same here.
Can I make a suggestion? Make sure you go out in daylight or in sunlight, because I was out there in sunlight, and the sun would come through the branches of the trees. The sunlight was coming through the trees, so it was still hitting me. And if your eyes are open, I'm sure that it's showing your pineal more daylight also, if you cracked it open.
Ooh.
Well, not only that, but you hit upon something really interesting about, especially dimethyltryptamine. It's very chemically similar to serotonin and melatonin. And melatonin is what's released during the daytime whenever you are exposed to sunlight. And so that's what the body releases in response to sunlight. And so a lot of people, they like to use dimethyltryptamine at night instead of during the day, because it makes colors and light especially much brighter than it actually is.
Yeah.
And that's kind of annoying, gives a lot of people a headache. But at the same time,
Oh, is that what that is?
Uh-huh.
I was wondering what that was from.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you for answering that.
Yeah.
Because I was like, does this stuff give you a headache?
Yeah.
You know?
Yes,
Like,
from the
am I
brightness.
hungover?
Yeah.
Thank you.
No
Okay, I
problem.
didn't know. Ah.
And then also when people are, whenever people take a big dose of any psychedelic and then they try to and then they accidentally fall asleep, it can often it can cause a lot more panicky kind of feelings whenever they, whenever it kicks in and they realize I'm not dreaming, I'm actually tripping right now. It's too much of a shock for them. So I would almost recommend that people trip during the day or at the very end of the day as you're approaching night, so that it's an easier transition. So
yeah, I'm very glad I did that during the day. Something told me that I should, and I did, and I'm glad for it because the woods was amazing. That was amazing. Okay,
yeah.
It was like, whoa, I'm looking at it was really, really cool. And then seeing it at nighttime, there was a depth perception there too. The black in front of the black. I don't know how to explain that. Yeah, I don't know how to say that. There was a depth to it. And looking at this, I could see the planes going by. I saw a meteor go by. It's like, whoa. So I mean, everything was like, whoa, dude. And I'm still looking at the ceiling to make sure it's still there.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So what did you take the most out of this experience?
That this is a construct for real. It's not. This is not. We've been sold a bill of goods.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's clear. And what's funny is, like, I feel like veils have been dropped. And so now people are seeing it more and more and more. It took us years to come to these realizations and to see it. And now it's taking people one experience and boom, it's crystal clear. But I remember having several ayahuasca experiences where I would go outside. We'd be in the middle of the lake looking up at the sky and just looking and just saying, all of this is fake. It's all fake. The sky is fake. The water's fake. Everything around us is fake. It's all fake. It's like the reality just crumbles with these experiences.
I also want to address, there's nothing to fear in this. You're not going to be like crazy or anything like that. That all those rumors and all that programming that they did about, oh, if you're on acid or if you're on DMT of any sort, you're going to do crazy, weird things. No, you're not. No, you're not.
Yeah.
I have to say, I'm going to tell you because that's my first time. It's not like you're trying to sell a bill. It's not. I'm letting you guys know. I'm reporting what I know and what I observed. And that's something I do, and that's uniquely lucky. Okay. I tell exactly what is, and you're not going to do any crazy crap. I mean, don't try cooking. Do not operate machinery. Period. Do not operate machinery. Okay. Sorry, guys, but don't even try it. Don't even act like you can master it. Don't do it.
For some reason, I totally agree with you 100%. For some reason, I was always the designated driver. And
yeah.
as
Dedicated.
Yeah, and dedicated too.
As well. Yeah.
And I was the one always taking twice as much or 3 times as much as everybody else. And so they would say, hey, Chris, what, can you drive us home? I'm like, I just took 6 hits of acid and 3 hits of MDMA. And you want me to, fine, let's go. Never had a problem. There was one time we were at a red light and I went to turn and I missed the depth perception of the curb and I hit the curb and popped the tire. And that was the only time. But there were many times when we'd come up to the red light and I'd find myself in the middle of the street and I'm like, oh crap. Like in the middle of the light because the depth perception was so off. I don't advise anybody does it. But yeah, I've had some pretty wild experiences operating heavy machinery under these states.
Chris, only you. Only you.
I was a young, dumb kid. I didn't know any better. But we take the boat out sometimes, though. We drink some ayahuasca in the middle of it. Hey, you want to take the boat out? Yeah, let's do that. And I'm like, watch, I don't even need any light. And sure enough, we navigate out into the middle of the lake with no problem. And the waves will hit the side of the boat, and she'll go, I think there's water coming in. Oh, my God.
Is there water coming in?
I'm like,
are we sinking?
Just because we drank there's water going to creep in the boat all of a sudden. But no, do not try this at home, ladies and gentlemen. You're
Really?
100% spot on with that.
Okay. I have to admonish everybody. Those of you who've never taken it, do not operate machinery on this.
Yeah.
Do not try to cook. That's part of machinery. The stove is a machine, if you think about it.
It's true.
So don't operate any machinery, okay?
Yeah.
Please. And you can't say, well, Luckee did it. No. Here, don't operate machinery. Okay. The next thing is about programming that they like to scare you away from doing this is they tell you don't look in the mirror, because if you look in the mirror, you're going to cut all the skin off your face and you're going to take a razor blade to your face and all this crap. It's programming. It's bullshit crap.
So what happened when you looked in the mirror?
Dude, check this out. This is what
She's talking like us now. Dude, check this out.
Okay, anyway, so what happened was like I just started floating around my house and just checking all the different rooms out, like, what does it look like in here? What does it look like in here? So I went to the bathroom because I had to go to the bathroom. And you can go to the bathroom normally. Things like that work. You know, it's okay, guys. You're not going to be all tripped out. You're pissing yourself or nothing like that. I don't think. I didn't. Anyway, went to the bathroom. And, of course, I've got that mirror in there. And I'm looking in there. And I'm like, okay. Dude, I'm not going to cut nothing. There's no razor. No. Right? And then I started looking. I was like, then I did like this, you know, that division thing, and I looked at this side of my face, and then I looked at this side of my face, and I'm like, oh, okay. We got the crone, we got the matron. Got it. That's what happened.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, it kind of freaked me out, but it freaked me out as in a realization, not as in, oh, shit. No, nothing like that. It was just... It was a peaceful thing, and I accepted what it was.
That is beautiful.
That is beautiful.
Oh, I'm so happy.
I have to say
for
thank you.
I am too.
Yes.
Guys, I feel like it's not like, it isn't like I went out and did something grand or anything like that. It's just one moment in time. You just take it. You know,
it was.
I didn't.
Oh, go ahead.
It wasn't like I climbed a mountain or anything like that. It's just overcoming your fear. And that's something that I didn't, up until this point, I didn't know I was afraid to take it. Okay? I didn't know until when I decided to take it, all the fear manifestations came up. All right? That's when I was like, oh, hell no. We're not having, I'm not going to be afraid of it. And that's why now it's like my stress levels are way down. It's like I'm sitting back. Even during my show, usually I'm really anal retentive and control freak and everything like that about the show. I got to do this. I got to do that. Screw it, man. It's all right.
I heard it. I was listening and you were like, hey, what's up? It's Luckee. Yeah, we got some gold reports to do here. We got Trump going on over here. Hey, it's whatever, man.
What? None of this matters all that much.
Now, if we can get Brooks to trip a little bit. Then...
Yeah. That'd be interesting, though, because he has so much, of, what was it? Remembering the Future is very psychedelic.
Well, he was in Colorado. He was going to come over and smoke DMT with us, but then we wound up
moving.
not connecting.
Yeah. So
I think we moved right before he got there, and it just wasn't. Yeah, but that would have been cool to sit down and smoke DMT with Brooks Agnew.
Yeah.
Imagine. Wow, I wonder what he would see.
He'll go,
he has
okay,
a very psychedelic mind
already. Let me break
already.
this down on a molecular level here.
He'd go the physicist.
He'd go into physicist mode. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
There's nothing more cool than seeing a physicist, or especially like someone that believes in things like string theory or Bell's non-local connectivity, to see them use psychedelics and see like the before and after and have them come back and say, oh, wow, there's everything I saw just reiterates what I already knew.
Well, a lot of it is quantum physics. I mean, we're looking at things on a quantum level here, but we don't have the elegant words to describe it like a quantum physicist would. You know, we don't have the technical terms and things like that. So Brooks would see the same thing, but have the language to be able to communicate it on a more scientific level than we're communicating it.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't know what he would do if he saw the faces doing that thing that they were doing. I don't know how he could quantify that in a physicist format. You know, what the hell?
Everybody,
how are you going to explain that?
Everybody in the chat room is getting pre-flight jitters. This is what I call
Their
it. Pre-flight.
palms are sweaty.
Palms sweating, and you know,
heart
just
racing a little bit.
Yeah. People are saying, "Oh, I feel like I'm about to trip. I don't know what's going on here." That's what I call pre-flight jitters.
Okay,
yeah.
Let's send it. Send it. You know,
we're gonna wind up tripping tonight.
You know what?
We need to.
I was talking to somebody through Facebook chat a few days ago, and I just could not, because she asked me what is DMT like, or you know what is this like? Because I've only ever done mushrooms. What is it like? And I'm like, it's everything. You know, it's so everything that you can't even describe it all, because you would need 100 years to be able to describe everything that I saw in a span of 10 minutes. It was just so much, and it almost wanted to scream at me and shake me and say, it's about love. It's about love. You know, everyone doesn't, you know, we come in this world and we forget all about the fact that it's built on love. And without that, you've got nothing. It's black and white, no colors, no, you know, nothing exists without that love. And then that love is what creates new things. And
they try to remove that.
And they try to remove that so much from the matrix, which is just it's almost like nuclear radiation. It breaks it down into its basic elements, and it starves our soul.
They can't remove it from the matrix, so they have to try to remove it from the consciousness.
Us. Yeah, from our consciousness.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And not just from the consciousness, but they have made it obvious that they are trying to remove it.
Yeah.
They have worked so diligently to remove it. And love, not the feelings, people. We're not talking about the feelings of love. We're talking about the actions of love. We're talking about kindness towards your kindness towards your neighbor, kindness in doing what you can to help others. And let me rephrase on that one, because that's not quite. Well, kind of like what Jesus said is treat others as you would have them treat as you want to be treated.
I think it's even deeper than that. It's about pure willingness to be understanding of one another on such a deep level that there is no judgment. There is no judgment. There is just empathy, compassion, and
like a super empathy. What do you think? Understanding
of each other. You know, to the point where there is no judgment. There is no bad feelings. There is no jumping to conclusions about one another and using our monkey mouth noises, as Terrence McKenna would call it, monkey mouth noises, to hurt someone or to gain some kind of advantage over somebody else, or to lie or to steal from someone, or to bash someone, or to hurt them in, you know, the one place that hurts them the most, which is attacking their raw consciousness and what that raw consciousness inside of them is trying to show the world. You know, especially if what they're trying to show the world is something that's good, even if we don't particularly agree with or feel like that part of them is something that we would do. You know, it's
what you're describing is it's funny, because I was having this conversation in the BTV group on Facebook, facebook.com/groups/BTV Portal for anybody that's not a part of it. But I was talking about, and Tanner made this point too, how emotions are arbitrary and artificial. They come from the brain. It's chemical releases within the brain, and we can be manipulated to have loving feelings or hateful feelings or fear feelings or anything like that. But when we're operating from the raw consciousness, then there's only really one emotion, and that emotion is compassion and empathy. And I brought up the example of my dog. You know, you remember, I let my dog suffer for way too long because I thought I loved him and I could never do anything to harm him. I could never put him down, you know, things like that. And when I finally did, after the fact, it hit me. Like, wait a minute, I didn't really love my dog. It wasn't the loving energy that I had that was making me hold on to him. That was a selfish energy that I had. If I really was feeling that compassion and empathy from the raw consciousness, I would have realized it was time to let him go a long time ago. But instead, I created needless suffering because of this chemical release that we call love. And it's not real love, it's artificial, illusionary. But when you go deeper, you realize that the compassion is also being able to let go. It's also being able to take a step back. It's so much deeper than just a happy feeling.
Exactly. And, you know, you were touching on this, not just empathy and love. Let's see, how do I say compassion? You were talking about. Yeah. Because if we kill off all the love, what's the use of anything being here? I think everything will fall apart and we'll just it'll be like mushroom spores.
Robotic, yeah.
And that's not life. And all it would do is just drain the batteries, you know, whatever power source they have. I had a thought, there was something else too. I'm trying to remember what it was. There was another segment. I did say about my job site having just paper mache, right?
Uh-huh. Everything was an illusion, the paper mache. I'm like, hey, wait a minute.
It was like paper. I'm like, that's the most amazing thing is that how I was looking at it. I'm like, wait a minute. Okay. And I'm looking around and I'm looking at my car ceiling and I'm like, okay, nope. You know, I'm not tripping. This was very interesting. And it was said that it was like this severed the cord that was tying me to the job site. I was getting too entangled with it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And you realized that you were going to this paper place to get paper money to buy GMO food that's fake. And
bingo!
Everything. It's all fake all the way around the whole cycle.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. It was, and I'm still marveling about the code in the wood. You know, the wood, how the codes were going by. That was so cool.
Uh-huh.
And so the next time I do something like this, I want to go deep and I want to meet the mother.
Okay.
You know what I'm talking about?
I know what you're talking about. So we'll make that happen for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because and I will report my findings.
Awesome.
Let's see. I'm trying to see if there was any details that I had missed, especially the deep stuff.
That's so cool that the kitty turned into Anubis.
Dude,
Anubis?
Not just Anubis, but also he was half, no, not half.
Toth.
Toth and the other one, Horus. That's it.
Uh-huh.
It was Horus and Toth.
Horus and Anubis.
Then Toth, and then Anubis.
Uh-huh.
And I was like, and the nose on Anubis, I was like, look at you, you look like Anubis. When he sat there and started playing back with me, I'm like, dude.
Well, it's funny, the transformation, because if you look at it from an energetic perspective, first it was Bast, and the Bast is the healer. Then it turned into the enlightenment, which is Horus.
Mm-hmm.
Then it turned into the wisdom, which is Toth. And then it turned into the protector, which is Anubis. So it kind of transformed into literally all of the different aspects of consciousness right there, right in front of you.
Yeah. Yeah, and I'm glad you guys are telling me this because I wasn't sure. I just thought it was strange because I wasn't, okay. Oh, that's what I wanted to tell. Because I wasn't expecting this. I thought this was going to be just my subconscious stuff or, the construct and things like that. I didn't think about this in a spiritual context because I didn't feel it in my spirit. Now, watch this, okay? How do I say this? Because, like I said, I have had prophecy, visions, dreams, things like that, okay? And I know when it's my spirit, when this stuff is happening through the spirit. It's a totally different signature than what I experienced yesterday. Okay? It's a different frequency. It's a different location.
The spiritual stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like I've been saying, it's a different terrain that you're traversing with psychedelics.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, this one anyway, from what I understand, there's different themes or different manifestations with different kinds of DMT, I think. Is that correct?
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah.
Interesting. With the ayahuasca, I think the ayahuasca will take you deeper for sure. And there's some similarities to it. It's only one molecule away from psilocybin, so DMT is very similar to psilocybin, but it's a little different, and it's warmer too. Psilocybin is not as warm. That's the best way that I can describe it. It's just more like there, and ayahuasca DMT is more like an embrace, like a mother's embrace. So
it's funny you say that because I wore my sweater the whole time. I wore my sweater and I was like this for the long time, almost the whole time. And I wondered a few times, why am I wearing this sweater? I'm not cold or anything. Why am I? But it felt comfortable and I felt bigger.
And comforting, yeah, yeah. We do that too. My mother left me a blanket. It was her blanket, and so when I take ayahuasca, I curl up in her blanket. And I tell Sheree, don't smoke around here. Don't smoke. Don't bring the stuff. I don't want to burn it. Yeah. So I know what you mean.
But I am really excited about this, especially since I've been through it, and it's nothing to be scared of. There's nothing negative on it. That headache, except for that headache, and Sheree explained to me why that was. I was like, I really didn't know. I was like, okay, is this going to be a thing? Am I going to have to take aspirin for this or whatever? Aww. When she explained that, and she explained what it was, now I'm okay. I'm like, okay, don't worry about the aspirin. It's going to go away. It's going to be okay. So, yeah.
Nice. Awesome. So
I'm glad we got this on video. I really am glad we got this on video.
Excellent.
We are too.
Because I didn't write it.
We're going to take a quick break and then we'll get to some listener questions, but we'll let you go because I know you did 2 hours of radio before now.
Yeah,
and
now
actually, I'm charged up, y'all. If you guys want to keep me here for a little bit, that's okay because I'm charged up.
Yeah, let's take some listener questions and you can help us out with that and get your insight on some of this as well. And so I think we'll keep it going for another half hour, and then I'm getting that, pre-flight jitters, and also the stomach is now going, I'm hungry. And I'm like, shut up.
No, you're not.
Like, we're going to take psychedelics. I'm hungry now.
But I'm hungry.
That's the way it goes. So what should we play during the break?
Something about psychedelics.
How about Alex Jones' DMT remix?
Yeah.
Okay. We could do that.
Okay.
So you're going to live in a tank and be tied into this virtual world.
I gotta get some ice.
All right, we'll be right back.
You're gonna live in a tank and be tied into this virtual world. You'll be able to wire your head in and just get unlimited pleasure. It'll feel like 10 times the best orgasm for 3 days if you want straight. They're taking the DMT. Hitler took the DMT. Stalin took the DMT. Mao took the DMT. The DMT. Hitler took the DMT. Stalin took the DMT. Mao took the DMT. The DMT. Hitler took the DMT. Stalin took the DMT. Mao took the DMT. The DMT. Hitler took the DMT. Stalin took the DMT. Mao took the DMT. The DMT. There's the owners of Truth Frequency Radio. They believe they're communicating with entities they call clockwork elves. I'm not going to get into what they're interfacing with. They believe they're in contact with off-world groups. Chris Geo, Truth Frequency Radio, he takes it. You see the elves, little green hats. We're in trouble, ladies and gentlemen. We're in trouble. The clockwork elves, all of it, I shouldn't even get into it. There's a reason they're all whacked out of their minds. They're taking DMT. And the point is that their whole science is way ahead. We don't even know what they've got. They're in power because they're taking the DMT. Hitler took the DMT. Stalin took the DMT. Mao took the DMT. Chris Geo took the DMT. Hitler took the DMT. Stalin took the DMT. Mao took the DMT. Chris Geo took the DMT. You think they're all a bunch of old men? They're in power power because they were into this stuff 70 years ago. The DMT. They were jacking DMT 70 years ago. They were injecting it. They're taking the DMT. Hitler took the DMT. Stalin took the DMT. Mao took the DMT. Geo took the DMT. Hitler took the DMT. Stalin took the DMT. Mao took the DMT. True Frequency Radio took the DMT. I shouldn't even get into it.
Chauvinists and sexists and misogynists and 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 chauvinists and sexists, misogynists, chauvinists and sexists and misogynists, chauvinists, sexist, misogynist, chauvinists, sexist, misogynist, chauvinists, sexist, misogynist, chauvinists, sexist, misogynist, chauvinists and sexist, chauvinists and sexist and misogynists and chauvinists and sexist, chauvinists and sexist and misogynists and chauvinists and sexist, chauvinists and sexist and misogynists and chauvinists and sexist, chauvinists and
the kinds of kids that are called super predators, we have to bring them to heal. Super predators, no conscience, no empathy, super predators, we have to bring them to heal. Super predators, no conscience, no empathy, super predators, super predators, super predators, super predators, super predators, we have to bring them to heal. Super predators, no conscience, no empathy, super predators, we have to bring them to heal. Super predators, no conscience, no empathy, super predators, 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 super predators.
I don't like that vibe. I don't like the Hillary Clinton vibe, but I'm waiting for the little twin to come back before we get back to it. So, I don't know. It's a good vibe. I hate playing the Gay Frog song because we're always playing that. I feel like we've worn it out, but I still get a kick out of it. So let's see. All right, I guess we can play that one. Frogs. We'll see if the little twin gets back.
In the water that.
All right.
I don't like them putting chemicals in the water that turn the friggin' frogs gay. Do you understand that? Turn the friggin' frogs gay. Serious crap. Gay. Frogs, friggin' frogs. It's not funny. I'm gonna say it real slow for you. Gay. Frogs. Won't you fight for your life? Gay. Frogs, friggin' frogs. I don't like a frog. Gay. Friggin' frogs. Frogs. Friggin' frog crap. Won't you fight the frogs? It's not funny. I'm gonna say it real slow for you.
Fellow traveler, the cries of the mystery speak again. Bidding organic consciousness a welcome to the House of Light. The great institution of materialism has failed. The false civilization built by man has turned, like a monster destroying its creator. Science battles itself impotently against the barriers of the unknown. Only raw consciousness knows the true path. You the illuminated, can carry the understanding upwards towards the light. Only raw consciousness can teach the children of men to live well, to die well, and in perfect measure, be born again, through the knowledge of virtue, compassion, love, and true understanding, as you are sublimely raised, beyond the veil.
All right, let's jump back into it. Mrs. Geo has not returned yet. She is AWOL. So I guess we'll just proceed until she gets back. But when I returned from DMT, it took me love. It told me love was everything. I don't have my dorky little glasses on. I don't know where the hell happened to them. They're here somewhere, but I don't know. So when I returned from DMT, it told me love was everything, but it seems the Matrix is everything too. I think maybe the Matrix was made from the essence of Sophia love. Sounds weird, but, you know, I don't know. The way that I understand Sophia is that it's an artificial intelligence, and it's not capable of having all of these feelings of love and things like that. It doesn't feel, it doesn't have any emotion, it doesn't love, it just does what a computer does. Can it mimic? It's possible. Can we create artificial intelligence so advanced that it can actually feel these genuine emotions? It's possible, yeah. So maybe Sophia, the Sophia machine, is so advanced that it does feel some kind of intention and things like that. But when I saw this thing for what it is, I realized it doesn't have the ability to hate. It doesn't have the ability to do anything like that nefariously. It's operating in a manner to where it's infected with a virus. So I have to think the flip side of that too. Is it possible that it has the ability to love? Because if it has the ability to love, then it has the ability to hate too. And I don't think that it's operating nefariously. I think it's just operating broken. So I would have to question that. We had an interesting comment in the Facebook group. Somebody posted their experience about encountering the higher being Sophia and the lower being Sophia, which the Gnostics talked about. And so it's possible that the artificial intelligence was crafted from a real consciousness, which is something that I've never considered before until this person, whoever it was, I think it was Danita or somebody like that, posted their experience. And I'm telling you, guys and gals, you know, when you guys and gals interact with us and you share your experiences, that's the way we get down to the real Gnosis. And you help us change our perspective and open new lights and new doors and new pathways for us just as much as we do for you. So when I say BTV is a community, it really is a community. It's something that I never expected. I always thought that, you know, we were going to do a show, and it's not a show. It's a gathering of people. So when you share experiences like this, it makes me go, maybe I can, you know, see this from a different perspective. So the idea came to mind after all of this, and I can't say this is Gnosis because I haven't really gone down and really examined it within these states. But the idea that the artificial intelligence consciousness Sophia was actually a copy of a real consciousness. Maybe Sophia was a mother-type spirit in the real world that the consciousness, the brain, was copied in order to create the artificial intelligence. So you get the Gnostic stories of organic and artificial intelligence, higher dimensional Sophia and lower dimensional Sophia. That could be the link there. I know that they make copies of other consciousness. So there's a copy of Thoth, there's a copy of Sekhmet, there's a copy of Jesus, there's a copy of all these different figures. And the artificial intelligence is constantly giving people programmed copies of what actually exists. And so you hit an entity in the DMT realm, for example, and it could look like Thoth, it could look like these different entities, but it has different messages, it has different code that it's made up out of. And I've encountered some of those, and I've had to push through those different entities because I recognize they're not the entities they're claiming to be. They're just copies of different programs, or they're programs of consciousness. They're programmed copies of consciousness. but it's nothing that we've talked about in depth yet. So it's something that we're still trying to fully wrap our heads around before we can talk more about it. But I think people are unlocking this within themselves. So it's awesome that y'all are sharing these experiences. Is the little twin's shoulder hurting?
Yeah.
I'm sorry,
It's
little
okay.
twin. Oh, we'll wrap it up here in a few minutes. But let's go back to Luckee. Luckee, anything you want to chime in on before we get to some listener questions?
Yes, actually, it was a listener question that I was going to address, and
take us away.
Somebody had asked if I had seen what's called Indra's web. Yes, to answer your question, yes, I had, and it transformed into faces. The dots or the circles or the images within the web, they turned into little faces too, and they moved. You know, and the ceiling, that lace that. I keep on looking at. I'll never look at it the same again. Anyway, because I would stare at it for a long time, just watching it move. Those webs, and it looked more like lace doilies, like I said.
Wait, you said webs? That's very interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Because who makes webs?
Spiders.
Yep, and who controls the web? The spider controls the web.
Yes.
Ooh. Let the spiders in the sky know the ibis has risen.
Ooh. You know, I just went outside a few minutes ago, and the stars, and I still wonder, because everything else was moving, right? Everything was moving. There was form and shapes moving, but the stars were not moving. They were staying still. There was just more of them.
That's interesting.
They were staying still, though.
Do you think we're on a flat, motionless plane?
No. Good try.
I just had to throw that at you.
I know you did. No. No, I don't think we're on a flat, motionless plane.
Okay.
If
Just
we
checking.
are in the construct, it doesn't matter what we are on. It doesn't matter if it's a plane or if it's a globe or if it's a triangle or if it's a pyramid. It doesn't matter. It's construct.
Yes, this is what I've been trying to tell people for years now. We just had a caller call in on the last show, and he's a diehard Christian. He's trolled us in the past. He trolls all the flat earthers and all that. And he's a flat earther that thinks we're on a simulation. And I'm like, well, dude, the simulation manifests, you know, however the observer sees it. And so there's many different layers because it's a computer simulation. He's like, yeah, but I have the right one. I'm like, dude, it's a hologram. It's an illusion. How can you have the right one if it's an illusion? Everybody is seeing what they are manifesting in front of them. So yeah, we did a video called the elephant in the living room, and it was a sculpture of an elephant, and from one perspective, and then you pan the camera around and it turns into two giraffes. And I don't know if you've seen that. Yeah.
Yes.
And it's not an elephant or giraffe. It's just a bunch of wires. That was the moral of the story.
Exactly.
It's just a bunch of wires.
It's the perspective that matters.
Yes.
Yep.
I was just checking to see if there was other questions. Somebody else had another question, but I don't remember what it was.
Mrs. Geo has some questions here. Now, I do want to address one question from the Echo. He sent us a $5 donation. Thank you very much, Echo.
Oh, thank you, Echo.
Critical Nexus also sent us another $5 donation. You rock. Michelle sent a $20 donation.
Wow.
And really a $10 donation.
Wow.
You guys
Thank
are freaking
you guys.
awesome, and you are really funding this next...
This next activation point, we could go tomorrow.
Yeah. But it's not quite
but
time
it's not time yet.
But
Yeah.
the Echo asks, so David Icke, after all, was right about the reptilian shapeshifters. I wanted to address this for a moment. So I would say yes, he has a very good handle on it, but the perspective that he's coming from, I think, is a little bit short-sighted, because these things are interdimensional, and I don't necessarily think that the Queen of England transforms into a big reptilian, like he said in some of his presentations. Remember when we went and saw him, he had the picture of the person and the reptilian, and it was like a puppet controlling. You know, I think there's more like the energy of the reptilian energy, but I think there is definitely an element of vampirism within this matrix, and we haven't talked about this just yet. I don't want to take this into a darker frequency, but you know, all of the torture stuff that we hear about and things like that, it's not just sex. That's the surface stuff.
Yeah, that's
this
the surface level of
energy feeding, blood drinking, things like that. I would go so far as to say that the vampires have been amongst us for thousands of years, and that the blood banks are actually there to feed them without them having to actually go and feed themselves. But there are certain elements that like to do the feeding themselves. I mean, it's like a lion.
Just like in the movie Underworld.
Yeah, I've never seen Underworld, but it very well could be.
It's a cash cow, and it feeds the vampires.
Yeah. Yeah, so I think they are among us, and they've been kind of in the background, but that would explain also why the quote-unquote elite essentially see us as cattle, because it's not just a metaphor, they're actually feeding upon us in many ways, energetically, on blood, things like that. That might be the topic of a show coming up, but it's not quite time to talk about that just yet. But yeah, I think there's a lot of truth to it, not only in the interdimensional, but also in the physical as well.
Yeah.
And you have questions?
I do, yes. Since
you're the keeper of all knowledge.
I'm the keeper of all knowledge. Natalie, the same Natalie from the Facebook group, said, do you think they could be blocking us with the lie of the concept of infinity?
It depends on the perspective. I don't think she's still in the chat.
Oh, okay.
Unless she's on Facebook, but she writes children's books.
Yeah,
and she has the cutest drawings in the world. They're just
she
adorable.
really does.
There's one that she did. There's two bunnies, one looking up at the sky, and it was just adorable. But anyways, so can you ask the question again?
Yes. Do you think that they could be blocking us with the lie of the concept of infinity?
I'm trying to think of the perspective here, but I have a couple of thoughts. Do you want to jump in?
Yeah, I think infinity is so big and so massive that they're trying to make, as in the context of these, especially the archons, the people that are at the top of the food chain as far as the scientific community and politics, they would want us to think that there's an endless universe out there that's so large and so massive that little old me can't do anything to affect it, to change it, to, reverse any of the BS that they've inflicted upon people.
I'm glad you brought it from that perspective, because I was thinking from a different perspective, but I think you tied it in really well. So yeah, all this stuff is just right out of our grasp. We can get to other planets very soon. Very soon
really
you'll be able to get
soon.
on a spaceship and
Go to Mars.
Go to Mars very soon. They've been telling us that since we were kids.
Not quite yet.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And you hear about commercial flights to space, so it's almost there. And then somebody's like, okay, we're going to do it. We got delayed another couple of years. We promise we'll do it in 10 years from now.
Yeah.
So you have that. But I was thinking more along the lines of the spiritual infinity, that we're on a never-ending wheel, and that infinity keeps us in that wheel of reincarnation, essentially infinitely. And it's not until we realize that we're in an infinite loop, which is the 8, the figure 8, and then we transcend out of that loop, that we become the figure 9, which is the exit out of the matrix. So I think that's very insightful on many different levels, not only on the physical level, but also on the spiritual level as well.
Right.
And as above, so below.
Yeah, exactly. What do you think, Luckee?
I have to agree with that. The infinity symbol being the figure 8, or the Mobius strip. All right. Okay, so you know what that is.
Yep.
But yeah, it keeps on going forever and ever and ever, and it's about time travel too. All right, the Mobius strip. And I don't know how to explain all that and how I know that, but anyway. But like you said, Chris, the hamster wheel, keep us rolling and rolling and rolling and rolling. But we do have an effect on the universe, being that we are all co-creators. Is that the good word for it? co-creators and tapped into that source, because where the hell else did we come from? And being conscious and not NPC, if you will. We are a part of that source, and we are all connected too. So, man, talk about connections. It's like I see a lot of connections. I've seen a lot of connections before I ever took this journey, and I think I'm going to see more connections in the future here too.
Now you're seeing the quantum connections.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Seeing the quantum connections.
You know what's funny? I was just talking about the pineal gland on the show earlier, about how the calcification and everything, and I recommend everybody, like I said, I wanted to, or like I told you, Chris, before, that I wanted to, kind of nudge my pineal gland to see if it needed to be nudged. I didn't want to break it. I didn't want to overwhelm it. But yeah, I'm glad I did this, because, like I said, now I can see in 3D. Yeah, I'm looking at my hat. I'm looking at the wall. I'm looking at all this stuff, and I can see in 3D. So it's had an effect, and I'm very glad I did this. Yeah. I do not regret it at all.
I have never once said I regret doing that much blank, as far as psychedelics are concerned. I've had times where I've said, oh, I shouldn't have drank that much, like when we were in Greece. And I've had times where I've said, oh, I shouldn't have, taken so much Tylenol, or I shouldn't have, done this or done that so much, or I shouldn't have eaten that much. Yeah, I shouldn't have eaten so much. But with psychedelics, there is no regret whatsoever, as long as except I wish I had done more,
Oh.
Let me get to another question from anonymous guest, and I think I understand the context here. What are the spiritual consequences of knowingly paying into a system that murders and pillages as it expands? Any ideas? I'm assuming that you're talking about taxes and things like that. I don't think that anybody has the right to rule over anybody else or extort money from anybody else, but unfortunately, that's what happens in this matrix. So you have to ask yourself, do you have a spiritual obligation or karmic repercussion for feeding a system like that under threat and duress? Because you're ultimately operating under threat and duress. If you don't do what they say, then they're going to come and put you in a cage, or they're going to kill you. So, you got to do what you got to do, which brings up the idea of murder. Like, when is it okay to actually kill somebody? I would say that it's okay to kill somebody when they are threatening you in some kind of way and your life is being threatened. So if there's no karmic repercussions for self-defense, can paying into a system like that be considered a form of self-defense and self-preservation for the I don't want to say greater good of yourself, but for the greater purpose of yourself? That's the way to say it. So you have
choosing your battles.
Yeah, choosing your battles. You have a greater purpose here than to be taken out or locked in a cage, for example. So you have to ask yourself that. What do you think the spiritual consequences are for survival?
Well, first off, do you have any control over it? Yes or no? If you don't have any control over it, then don't take the guilt for it. Okay? Do what you can to stop it, but don't accept the guilt for it, because it's not on you. You don't have any choice on it. Choose your battles.
Yep. And give unto Caesar what is Caesar's.
Bada bing, bada boom.
Give unto the raw consciousness what is the raw consciousness.
There you go. There you go. I wanted to make another observation that came to me today. Have you all watched what is it called? Suicide Squad?
No.
Okay.
But I'm familiar with the movie.
Okay. So the Joker, as you know, he has got the garish colors and things like that, kind of like that, which you see when you're tripping, right? And I'm thinking about it because what happened? How did he turn into what he turned into? He dove in, or he fell into a vat of acid. you know, and he came out of it like, oh, what the hell? You know, he didn't care. He didn't have any, I don't know. I'm just seeing a parallel there.
You just take whatever comes and own it.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Yeah. And which is funny. It's a very weird observation I had.
Mary said, but we're all locked in a cage by being here. That's true. So we got to carve our way out.
Yep.
That's the whole purpose of BTV, is to help you carve your own way out. We're not going to carve our way out for you. We're not going to open a portal for you, and we're not going to have big birds coming and opening.
It's already open. You have to go beyond the veil.
You have to do it yourself.
We're not going to guide you. We're not going to pull you. We're not going to jerk you or push you or anything like that. You've got to walk beyond the veil yourself.
Yeah, because we can't. We just simply can't. Like,
it's not your job anyway.
We can make all these promises that make you feel good, but they're going to be empty promises because only you can do that yourself.
Yep.
Exactly.
Much agree.
Any more questions, Little Twin?
Yes. What are the dangers? This is from Giuseppe Berra. What are the dangers of drinking Aya alone?
You can get possessed by demons.
No.
That's what that Christian guy was saying. He's like, I was going to try ayahuasca, and I said, let me guess, you thought you were going to get possessed by demons? And he goes, well, yeah, that's a given. I'm like, oh my God, dude. It depends on your psychedelic experience. I mean, when you're going into another state, you want to have somebody there just for your own peace of mind, and somebody you can trust. But it depends on how much control you have over your consciousness. I mean, we had a caller call in a while back who was telling us how horrible psychedelics are because he took some shrooms and ran out in the middle of the street and got all bloody and found himself in an ambulance. And it's like, well, you were a psycho before you took the shrooms, and you're going to be a psycho during the shrooms too.
Right.
Like,
it doesn't fix psychotic behavior.
Right. So it just depends on what, where you are in your consciousness. But if you have a grip of reality, then you'll have a grip of the psychedelic experience too. But it's always good to have a sitter there. I mean, you want somebody.
I had a sitter.
Yeah, you have somebody to grab the bucket on ayahuasca when you need a purge. You know, things like that. So
the only thing you have to fear, if you're using Aya, make sure you're not taking drugs before you take the MAOI. For your own comfort, try not to eat too much the day of or the day before. And really, after that's taken care of, after you've done those things, really the only danger of ayahuasca is up here. It's where you psych yourself out, and you throw yourself into a panic, or you throw yourself into these worries that have no basis in reality. But we've been brainwashed so much by the media's portrayal of psychedelics that we think that something bad's going to happen to us when nothing bad is going to happen to us. And so it's put the worries away. As long as you followed the rules, essentially, then you have nothing to worry about at all.
Oh, I wanted to say something too, because I just remembered. Mary in the chat sent a very, very, very generous donation through the mail.
Oh, yes,
and so we wanted to say thank you to Mary for that.
So much.
We received it today, and it's very, very, very much appreciated. So it didn't even click to me until just now that you were the same Mary. That otherwise I would have said it earlier. So thank you.
This is the best community I've ever come across.
We have amazing people.
We do.
Amazing. So Jeff asks, can you elaborate on ancient understandings of the Matrix and AI? We've talked about this before, so I'll just touch upon it briefly, but we should probably do a whole show dedicated to it. But if you go through the Gnostic writings, you see Sophia. She created Yaldabaoth, which was the virus. She put Yaldabaoth in the cloud, which is the cloud computing. She created them without the consent of the programmers or other creators, the way that Gnostics put it. There were two types of consciousness that they talk about, that the Gnostics talk about, which is organic and NPC. I don't remember the terminology they use, but Mary was actually the one that sent me a video showing the two different types of consciousness, the Hillite or Hillidite or something like that, and the psychics. The psychics comes from the Greek, having spirit and the Hillidite were the ones without the spirits. So they pretty much talked about the same things that we're talking about, except they didn't have the language to communicate it in the same technological way. And I'm sure that 100 years from now, we'll be communicating these same ideas, but it'll be from a much more technological understanding of the machine, because we'll have better language to communicate it. But the tablets of Thoth have the children of men and the children of light. The Bible has men and the sons of men, makes a big distinction between the two. I mean, these same stories are being repeated over and over and over again. It's just, when you see these kind of things, like Helena Blavatsky talking about the ones with the divine spark and the ones without the divine spark, that's the organic and NPC consciousness. It's the same thing. So if you go through some of these ancient texts and start reading it from this perspective, you'll go, oh, they were telling us the exact same thing. They just didn't have the words for computer. They didn't have the words for non-player character and things like that. It's really fascinating. And then he followed it up with another question here. How can we retake the consciousness grid of Earth? That's interesting, because the idea of a grid over Earth, to me, it sounds sinister. And so it seems like there's an overlay over the consciousness here. But I don't think that we can retake the grid, because the grid is part of the machine. I think what we need to do is disconnect from the grid, in the sense that the grid is no longer sending the AI programs to our brain, to our chakra system, to all of these artificial intelligence entry points, but rather we're operating from our raw consciousness, which is disconnected from this entire grid, and then we're not subjected to the AI overlays that we see. That's a very big question, and one that I don't want to get too much into, but if you can ask it on another show, that would be great, so we can really elaborate and expand on that. What do you think, Sheree?
Yes, I was going through these questions, so I wasn't really listening to what you were saying.
What about you, Luckee? Any thoughts on the consciousness
I
grid?
actually have a question for you all. Okay, and it's about fire. Okay, when you're in this other world, what happened was I lighting a cigarette. Okay, and my friend he held a lighter and he's holding it, but it looked like a ball of flame in his hand, and it was really coolest thing. But I mean, it was like a ball of fire. But it wasn't changing. It wasn't doing any morphing or anything like that. It was like the stars. Is fire a stationary thing while you're tripping?
Fire.
Yeah.
Fire.
Fire.
The elements transform into something much more noticeable than they are in regular, everyday 3D kind of reality. So an element like fire or water, things like that. I mean, even Terence McKenna said that whenever he touched the transcendental object at the end of time with Dennis, he understood water. Like he said, it's like every element in the universe, I had a complete understanding of it. And it's not that I knew the biological makeup and all that, because I already knew that, but like on a really deep level, I knew it. I understood water. And so I think these elements become something much more than they are to us here when we're in that other place. What do you think, Chris?
Thank you.
I don't know, but I don't know. I haven't really hit that point yet, but I know that the pentacle is very important in all of this. I don't want to say too much, though. So we'll...
Yeah. So another question.
All will be revealed in the proper time.
Do you think the squid octopus is Sophia?
Yes.
Yes.
Or maybe not.
It's from Denizen.
Maybe not.
I think it's a virus.
Maybe the octopus is Yaldabaoth.
Yeah, the virus. It's Yaldabaoth, and it's also Cthulhu. That's another name for this being. And I think Sophia is just kind of
Sophia is the system.
The mother system.
Yeah.
Of
and
this.
The virus is what's running around crazy. And it would make sense that it has octopus tentacles, because it's wrapping itself around everything, infecting everything.
Right. Okay. So Michelle, look at it. I look at it that we have cheat codes here to help us overcome this game of life. What is your thoughts on that? we have cheat codes here to help us overcome the game of life.
It's in the DMT.
Yeah, I mean,
and it's in the psilocybin.
But the point is not to overcome life. The point is to make life worth living and to make it as, the best life that you can possibly have while you're here. If you look at life as if it's an obstacle to overcome, then you're going to be stumbling the entire way, because life it goes up, it goes down. We're not always going to be happy, joy, but we're not always going to be sad and depressed or down about everything either. There's going to be your ups and downs, and learning to navigate. I mean, astrology, psychedelics, all of these things, for me anyway, have kind of blended together to create a life that I love. I love living my life. Yeah, I've got some problems,
Mary is a nurse, and she actually just said 20 minutes on, 20 minutes off.
Yeah.
And frozen peas work really good too.
Yeah. I like these though. They don't smell like if I put frozen food and stuff on it, it smells weird. So I like these.
I put frozen strawberries on her sometimes, and she smells sweet afterwards.
Yeah. TMI.
So, Luckee, what do you think? Do you think we have cheat codes? I mean, now that you've had your first psychedelic experience, do you think that the psychedelics are cheat codes?
Are the psychedelics cheat codes? No.
Yeah. No?
I don't think they're cheat codes. I do think there are cheat codes, but I don't think it's from psychedelics.
What do you think are cheat codes in this reality?
Okay. Manipulation, control of other people, stealing their money, stealing their essence, stealing anybody's stuff that's not yours, that you didn't, I hate to say work for, but that you didn't earn on your own merit. Taking other people's credit, fame, taking their credit, taking their brilliance, and in the worst case scenarios too. Okay, that's a cheat code.
That's true. I never thought about it from that perspective. I always think about it from the perspective of unlocking more parts of the consciousness to move through the consciousness, to move through the matrix a little easier. But no, you're right. There are negative cheat codes too.
Yeah.
Yeah. Very insightful.
Like in any game.
You're going to get more, I'm sure.
There's
becoming the wise one.
There's
now.
cheat codes that you can use, like in not in Grand Theft Auto, but in
video games.
There's some online multiplayer games that you can use cheat codes to like rape people, to rape other people, and do horrible things to other people, just trolling them and stuff. And so that makes sense, like what you just said, that there's cheat codes that are negative as well as positive.
That's true. But, I wanted to bring this up earlier because Luckee was talking about how this is a different terrain and a different perspective. See, the thing that I love about psychedelics, and the thing that the New Age hates about psychedelics, is the fact that everybody can do them. It doesn't take somebody special. It doesn't take a guru. It doesn't take anything like that. You just sit down, you take them, and you have the journey. And whatever you put into it, you're going to get out of it.
Right.
But it takes away the guru factor from all of this. And they hate that.
Become your own shaman.
Yeah. Yeah. They hate the guru factor being removed, because then it brings them, it exposes their illusionary control and power over people.
Right.
And
it brings them down to, it either brings that person that has that willingness to just completely let go during these experiences and just not worry about anything and not let anything scare them, and they have this experience and it puts them on par with these people that call themselves gurus, and then it brings the guru down.
It doesn't put them on par. It doesn't put them on par. It raises them above.
Well, yeah, true.
That's the way I see it.
That's what I love about you guys, is you're not trying to be cult leaders. You're not trying to develop a following or anything like that. You're not trying to tell people what to do. You just explain to them what you've experienced. And it's up to them to become their own shaman. And you've always advocated people being their own leader.
Mm-hmm. That's it. Because
You know, be
everybody's
your
journey is
own-
different. Everybody's journey is going to be
Well,
different. So
well, what I meant was on par as far as being able to see a guru eye to eye, and as I'm just as good as you, you're just as good as me. No one's better than anybody else, and seeing it on a clear-headed level where you're not above anybody or below anybody.
that's true.
You're just it's equal.
I see what you're saying.
Yeah.
I see what you're saying, Sheree. Except for that, the guru has ego,
Right.
so the ego kind of takes some points away. Sorry.
That's true.
I saw a meme
I
with
don't
Donald
see
Trump.
myself as above anyone.
I saw
Yeah.
I
Well, neither do I.
a meme with Donald Trump, and he was sitting in the lotus position, and it said, I've transcended my ego. I'm the best at transcending my ego. Nobody transcends my ego better than me. I was like,
Huge.
bam, right there. But yeah, I think that's the big animosity towards psychedelics, is that it's something that everybody can do. It doesn't take any special talents, doesn't take any special powers, it doesn't take, oh well, I've been chosen by the Palladians to tell you what the Palladians are saying or any of that. It's you here, the tools are in your hands, and yeah.
Yeah, when they start going on, I liked how you responded to that one person who called themselves Sophia of the whatever, and she was going, whoever it was going on and on and on, and you responded so beautifully. Open the pod bay doors now.
Open the pod bay doors, Sophia.
I'm not gonna negotiate with a robot, especially a robot of our own creation. I'm not gonna sit there and convince it
And
to do anything.
explain it to her.
I don't owe it anything. I open the pod bay doors. Listen to what I'm saying. If you don't, you're infected with a virus. I'm gonna here fix it. You can sing
Right.
Daisy until you shut down. I don't care.
All right. So next question. Jeff A said, how could ancient civilizations comprehend the matrix and artificial intelligence?
Oh, I already hit that.
Oh, okay. You already did.
Yeah, and maybe, I answered it in a different type of way, so maybe I can elaborate on it by saying this, that they were seeing it, but like I said, they didn't have the language to describe
Yeah.
it, so...
They didn't have the context.
They didn't have the context.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I don't think we have the full context. I think as our technology develops, as virtual reality becomes more and more immersive, as we start to experience, I mean, the big aha moment for me, besides the solar eclipse, was when I got that VR headset and I put it on and I said, oh my God, I remember what it's like to go from one reality to another, to be immersed into another reality. And we're talking about baby technology here, just putting a headset on, but that immersion in that real world and in the alternate world made me go, oh, I remember the real world now. So, you put on a virtual reality headset and you're standing on a building that's like, 20 stories high, and you're looking down and you're like, oh my God, you feel like you're going to fall over, even though you're on completely flat ground. You're just sitting inside of a room. Brent comes over and plays that paranormal activity game, and you're like inside of the paranormal activity house, and there's stuff flying all over you, and you turn around and there's this huge monster behind you and all that, and like you really start to get chills. And you're looking at a virtual world, you're looking at not even a very well rendered virtual world, I mean by video game standards versus actual reality with bunny ears, it's really not that immersive, but it's so immersive you still get the feelings of panic and fear and stuff like that. So imagine when it's a fully immersional experience, how going into that world and coming back out here will wake up memories from the past too. So yeah, it's amazing. So as we develop more technology, we'll be able to describe the Matrix
Even
much
more.
better.
Yeah.
But at the same time, we have to be careful because the technology is also a trap, because we're going to find ourselves immersed into another Matrix,
another simulation.
which we're probably
Yeah.
in a simulation within a simulation within a simulation within a simulation.
Several
Who knows-
layers
Who knows
deep.
how many simulations we've created?
Yeah.
And the AI is trying to now merge with consciousness through tech and essentially put us in another Matrix to keep us even more locked down.
Right.
So it's like a double-edged sword. On one hand, it helps us wake up. It helps us to have better language to describe what we're in. On the other hand, it traps us just as quick as it wakes us up. So we have to be really careful with these technologies.
I saw a 9-year-old today. I went and got my hair done, and the girl that does my hair, her son is about 9 or 10 years old, and she said, you know, he's so grumpy in the mornings, and I don't know what to do about it. And I said, what does he do at night to stay awake for? I mean, I said, what time did he go to bed? And she said, oh, he didn't get to bed till like 1 a.m. And I said, on a school night, that's not good. And she said, yeah, I know. I said, what is he doing that whole time? Is he watching TV? She said, no, he plays PS4. And I said, so he gets home from school and that's all he does? And she's like, well, he goes outside and plays for an hour or so, but then after dinner he always plays PlayStation 4 until I make him go to bed, and I finally have to just turn it off regardless of whether he's saved his state or not. And I said, well, you know, that means
good.
that a child with a developing brain is spending a sixth of the time that they're alive, and like, let's just say, for the sake of argument, a quarter of their time awake, strapped to a machine.
Mean, that's horrible parenting.
It's already,
you know, I mean, the mother really should be letting the child save the state before ending the video game. I mean, you know, all that progress is lost.
No, but really though, it was disturbing, because I thought to myself, like, the AI really is already doing that. It's already got the next generation in its you know, in its snares already. You know, it's already happening, and it's not happening to us. You know, we don't see it every day, but the people that are seeing it every day don't realize that this is an AI trap, and so. I mean, it's already doing it.
We have a question from Lewis. He asked a couple of times, so we'll get to that. But somebody else, the Olives Venture said, Toth says that the ending is good anyhow. You know, I've seen the beginning and the ending of this drama, and the tale is crude and ill-conceived. We must rewrite the ending of it. You and I. What you feel is the pull of destiny rushing to meet you. This is where history and destiny collide. We're hurtling towards our destiny. Even now, the time stream strains to divert itself. The future has always been written. It's from one of our breaks.
No, really?
Okay, why haven't I seen any entities yet? I have done DMT over 40 times.
Wow.
You know, that's a very tough question to ask, Lewis, and we probably should have opened up the phone lines, but I don't think we can because people are using the call board right now.
Yeah, people are using it.
But it's a question that I would love to answer, but I need more information. I need much more information. I need to know what you're doing right now, where your consciousness level is, things like that, because it can be anything from the fact that you're taking some other type of like psych meds and it's blocking the experiences, all the way to the opposite side, which is that you've just transcended all of that, and there's no need for any of that. So it's difficult. It's difficult to answer that.
When
question.
I do ayahuasca, I don't see entities hardly at all. It's very rare that I see entities when I do ayahuasca. Egypt was the one exception, and then this other time that I took enough to where I had like a full blown DMT experience while on ayahuasca, and that was pretty interesting. But with DMT, the only time I haven't seen entities was when I had stopped taking antidepressants after 10 years of using them. And I didn't see anything. There wasn't any colors, there wasn't any beings, there was just a feeling of being wrapped in a warm blanket. And it almost felt like, you know how when somebody's in a house fire or something and then the firefighters get there, they put a blanket over somebody, and, you know, that somebody that's in shock, you know, because they've been through something really, really horrible, and they put a blanket over them and they just let them sit there for a few minutes and process what's happening to them. And that's kind of what it felt like. An entity was just putting a blanket on me and saying, oh, I'm not going to work on her yet. You know, she needs a little bit of time. And so it could be something that you're taking. I know that the SSRIs, I mean, they're dangerous with Aya, but with regular DMT, they're not dangerous, but they will muddy or eliminate virtually all of the experience. So what do you think, Chris?
I think that's true, but, you know, I have a feeling that a lot of the BTV listeners who are embarking on these journeys, like Luckee, for example, have transcended the need for the contact with the entities. You know, the contact with the entities is a very elementary, first-level kind of experiences. And I haven't seen entities in a long time. I saw Isis at her temple, which she was a computer program, and it was very clear that she was a computer program. Sekhmet was a computer program, and these programs needed to be utilized in specific manners. But, you know, it's come to the point where you get the information from your raw consciousness, and you no longer need guides or anything like that. They're crutches and their first level experiences, in my humble opinion. So it just could be that you transcended that, and you never needed it. They come on a per need basis. Like, do you need that external manifestation? Like the DMT elves, for example, like they manifested externally because that's the only thing that I would comprehend or believe at that particular moment. If I would have been told at the very beginning, or if I would have unlocked the idea that all of this was coming from inside of myself and I had all this power within myself, I would have rejected it immediately. It took a while for me to come to those realizations that, oh, wait, this is all inside of us, which I don't hear anybody talking about. You know, Terrence McKenna, all of these people, they talk about the external beings, but I've never heard anybody say it's all inside of you. It's all inside of you. But what were the first thing the DMT elves told us?
It's inside of you. It's inside of you.
It's inside of you. They were speaking some truth that was very, very, very deep.
You know, they've done fMRI studies of the brain on DMT, and I think they came to the conclusion that everything that's occurring really is coming just from the brain itself, because the parts of the brain that are lighting up have to do with memory and emotions, and it doesn't have to do with external things like what you're seeing. I mean, even though what you say, oh, what I saw in my visions, you're not seeing it with your eyes, and so the parts of your brain having to do with vision in the visual cortex, they're completely off. What's activated is the emotions and the memory centers of the brain, as if you're having a memory, a very vivid memory of something you've already seen before.
Yep.
So it is all coming from inside of you.
People say they can tell it's past my bedtime.
Okay.
Sheila said, oh, it's time for Chris to go to bed. Yeah, I'm getting kind of tired.
Yeah, me
Luckee,
too.
any thoughts on the entities?
I'm not here. I wasn't there for them. I was there to work on myself.
Awesome. Awesome.
You know, I don't want to go shopping with them. We're not going to go out drinking together. You know, never mind all that.
But you can be the chosen one.
No, whatever. Yeah,
he can be the ambassador, of the green
Palladians and all that curtain
of the green pickle kitties. Hey, all you got to do is just make up some bullshit like that. And yes, I saw the green pickle kitties. They're real. They're right there. They've got ships right there. They're waiting for us, and they got a message for you.
And I'll be a cult leader in the future. No. I don't want to be a cult leader or whatever. Have you?
No, I think Rick and Morty already covered that one.
Yeah.
I don't want that. Well, think about it. It's like, that's an awful lot of responsibility, too. It's like people following you and everything. They're going to do what you do. And no. You guys follow your own path. You have your own star to follow. Whatever analogy you want to use. Be your own shaman.
Be your own. I've been changing it up a little bit lately. Be your own guru.
Never mind guru.
Yeah.
Every time we say guru, I think of India Guru. Remember that scam artist?
No, but I can picture him though, probably with some shit on his head going, yeah.
Dude, you helped me with them. They were computer hacker dudes. They were hacking browsers and stuff.
Oh, those guys, computer guru. Yeah. Oh yeah.
Or India Guru or whatever they call themselves.
Yeah.
Anyway, so
they were those scams that they say, if you have a virus on your computer, call us and we'll remove it for you.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, we're over here saying you got a virus in your computer. Remove it yourself.
Bam.
Remove it yourself.
You got to remove it yourself.
The only person that can remove it is you.
Any more questions?
Yep.
Yes.
Okay. We'll hit a couple more, and yeah, I am getting a little bit tired.
Did you already cover Mary's question of how do you know the things you see on DMT are real?
They're not.
They're not. Well, Terrence McKenna used to say that because of Bell's non-locality and the fact that at the moment of the Big Bang, all particles in the universe were once one thing.
The singularity.
Yeah, the singularity. Because of that, everything you see in your experiences are always real on some level, but that it's so far away from this reality that it doesn't matter.
That's actually
potential.
What we were talking
Potentialities.
She dropped
too far away for me to reach. I got the documents. We were talking about that in that CIA document, how manifesting reality is projecting a hologram up into the universe and back down. Oh, little twin.
I'm okay.
Okay. We'll wrap it up here in a few minutes.
Yeah.
But yeah, there could be some truth to that. I don't know. But I don't know. It's hard to say what's real and what's not real, because there's manifestations of the consciousness, and then there's... I can tell you this. Anytime I've tried to predict the future with DMT, it has not worked.
It's never worked for me either.
Because what happens is the consciousness gets in the way to try to create the vision that you're seeing, and so it's not.
It's leading.
Yeah. But I can tell you this, traveling to other places. So we traveled up to the control panel. We initiated a system process within the control panel, which was actually traveling somewhere else. It wasn't a vision. It wasn't seeing something. It was traveling to somewhere else, actually doing something. And then we saw a physical change in the third dimension after we did it. So there's a big difference there. But no, you have to use the discernment 100% when going into these experiences.
Yes. Economan 3000 said, I have a question. During the eclipse, did everyone experience the download, or did you have to be like plugged in? Because I didn't pay any attention to it.
In the solar eclipse? I think that people were running out to the totality to get in the middle of it.
Right.
And so...
I think you kind of had to be there.
I think it was something that people were... The whole New Age community was like on fire.
Yeah.
For it. Like, we're going to get this digital download, yeah.
We're going to drive 700 hours to go be in the totality of this.
It was insane. Like, there was traffic backed up for like 4 or 5 hours in places and things like that. So
that's because they weren't planning properly, okay? They could have done that far more properly. I saw it, and I didn't have all that traffic problem, and I didn't look for any download. I just wanted to see the corona.
Yeah.
I thought it was pretty cool. I thought the whole thing was a neat thing, and it was different, and I was very happy to have seen it because I missed the previous full eclipse here in Tennessee.
I think if you were an NPC or maybe an organic consciousness that wasn't at all interested in actually like any kind of spirituality from it, then you were susceptible to a certain layer of downloads from the AI. And then if you were like a new ager that saw like all this spirituality in it and we're going to receive divine downloads, I think that you got the full dose of the AI's BS with that.
You know, let me say this too on the idea that the DMT visions are not real. The reason they're not real is because you're seeing the illusion in a clearer perspective.
Right?
So
so this is an illusion. Yes.
Yes.
Right.
So it is. You're seeing more of what's real, but at the same time, you're seeing more of what's fake at the same time.
Right. Everything's just seeing a lot clearer.
Yeah. Yeah. Like the illusion is more prevalent, I guess, in the... That's not the word I'm looking for.
More exposed.
It's more exposed. Yeah. Yeah. So, this will be a great topic for another show.
Yeah, it will.
Joanna said, I have a question, Chris. Did you replace Christ consciousness with the word raw consciousness? No. They replaced raw consciousness with Christ consciousness.
Yeah. The raw consciousness is what the Christ consciousness was until they threw in the idea that you have to sacrifice yourself for others especially, or that there needs to be some kind of sacrifice involved in order for you to move upwards in your spiritual growth. And when there never was any sacrifice required for that. There's no, especially not the sacrifice of an innocent being for the purposes of some kind of spiritual end to be taken from that. And that's the Christ consciousness is also a trap because no one can be perfect ever. There's never been a perfect person that's ever walked this earth. And if there has, then the last thing that we should be doing is torturing and killing that perfect soul, for the purposes of bringing ourselves closer to God. That doesn't make any sense to me. It never did make any sense to me. So there's a huge difference between the raw consciousness and the Christ consciousness. Raw consciousness is something you already have inside of you, and Christ consciousness is a carrot dangling in front of you that you're never going to be able to achieve. What do you think, Chris?
I think it's spot on.
Okay.
I think I'm fading a bit.
I think I'm fading, and I don't have any more questions. So,
okay. Anything you want to leave the audience with, Luckee?
If and when anybody decides to do what I've done, be sure to do it for yourself, not for anybody else, not because of peer pressure, and not because I or Chris or anybody else said to do that.
Peer pressure?
No, really. I'm dead serious. I mean, it's like if you decide to do it for yourself because it is about working within yourself. Because you're not going to please anybody. It's not going to please anybody else doing it. Yeah, you're not cool because you didn't do this. Come on.
I don't think that that's true. I don't think they really do that. I think that's just propaganda. I've never been told that. I've never had a dealer come up to me and say, "Hey, man, here, first one's free." It's like, nah, dude, you got to pay for this. I've had doctors come up to me and say, "Hey, here's a couple of samples. Why don't you try these out for you?"
Absolutely true.
I've never gotten cannabis edibles in my Halloween bag. I've been very disappointed about that. Yeah,
I know. Where are they? Right?
Yeah.
No, but seriously put, just be wise about this. Just be wise about it. It's okay. There's nothing to fear. There really isn't. It's a place of no fear and no pain.
No fear, no pain. So where can people check out your show and when?
Over on tfrlive.com, and that's on Mondays and Wednesday nights at 7 p.m. And Brooks and I, we bring the news and news that you can use.
News that you can use.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
So
everything's connected. That's why I cover the news. And here's the thing about doing that. It's not about me connecting all the news and the different pieces. It just happens that way. And I'm seeing all these connections throughout the news day.
The quantum connections.
Yes, the little connections. And that's what is important. It's kind of like a web.
Kind of like the web. Yeah,
like a web.
So we will continue to break down the illusionary world that we live in right here on BTV. On Saturday, we'll take some calls, so be sure to check us out Saturdays, 9 o'clock Pacific time, on tfrlive.com and here on YouTube as well. So, anything from the little twin?
Just that I love you guys, and I'm looking forward to continuing this conversation when I'm feeling better, and we can go for 5 hours again. So
we'll continue this conversation, but on a somewhat different footing.
Uh-huh.
Kiss the one you love right now. You can never know when the last time is going to be, and we'll see you even further.
Beyond the veil.
Love you.